Chapter 131. Everyone in the environmental science class was at a complete loss. Maybe they overslept last night and hadn't woken up yet? Are we still dreaming right now? Finally, Xianxia said something in a muffled voice, which roughly summed up everyone's mood. Although I don't understand what he's saying, he seems really good. This bastard, he's hiding it too deep, too deep. Sun Xiaoxuan's English foundation was the best, so she understood Qin Guang's statement clearly. In front of her was another copy of the paper. She understood that Qin Guang's impromptu English level was really terrifying. She pressed her hands on her thighs and squeezed them tightly. Her exquisite beautiful eyes stared at Qin Guang and she almost stopped breathing. I knew it. You really didn't lie to me. You really are this good. Qin Guang, you never let me down. Qin Guang, who was on the stage, saw all the expressions of the audience. When he noticed the shocked faces of Bai Nyangzi and the others, Qin Guang's heart was so happy that it could be described as sweet to the point of sadness and madness. Let me ask you guys. How is the old man's English? Are you convinced? Are you scared? Are you panicking? From today on, no one in this world can stand in front of me, point at my nose and say, "Look." It was none other than Qin Guang, who had suffered 5 consecutive defeats. You guys have to say that's more Liang than Liang, more Jin Dongfang than Jin Dongfang, the king of English, Qin Guang. Zhou Xian's performance was not much better than Sun Xiaoxuan's. She almost couldn't hold back her tears from the excitement. Thank God. His performance was amazing. It was better than he had imagined. He could actually express such a Chinese paper in English so fluently on the spot, and he didn't make any mistakes in the professional vocabulary that I was most worried about. He really tried his best for me. Zhou Xian stared fixedly at Qin Guang, who was constantly showing off on the podium. Her mind was in a daze as she recalled the feeling when she was ambushed by him that day. But this time it was his heart that felt warm, not his buttocks. Deputy Director Han did not know what kind of reputation Qin Guang had for English in this class. When Wang Ren recommended this class to take on the job, he thought there might be students with good English in this class. However, he was still shocked. He looked at Qin Guang with an appreciative smile on his face. He felt that this young man was really not bad and had great potential. Although Wang Ren always used his uncle's help from time to time to do some *T things in the academy, he did a pretty good job this time. Schmidt and the others didn't know why the teachers and students of Gokyo University were behaving so strangely, as if they were very surprised. But on second thought, this young student's spoken English was indeed very good, even more authentic than them, the authentic Americans. From Schmidt's point of view, this young man's spoken English could even be regarded as an art of language. Linguistics was not only in Chinese but also in English. Although Schmidt did not specialize in English linguistics, he had a wide range of academic interests and made a lot of friends. One of his friends happened to be the world's top linguists in this field, and he often acted as a language consultant for some large-scale medieval blockbusters, such as Pirates of the Caribbean. Schmidt felt that this young man's spoken English was full of medieval European style, just like what his friend often said. As an associate professor, he even subconsciously felt that the young man standing in front of him was a gentleman from an ancient British family. Of course, the quality of the paper prepared by Gokyo University's undergraduate students was indeed high, which also amazed him. He felt that he had underestimated Gokyo University before coming here. In the vast Wuxia there were many hidden talents. It was really scary that there was such a talented undergraduate student in Gokyo University. Schmidt was caught off guard and he subconsciously felt ashamed. Among the people present, there was only one person with a rotten face, as ugly as if his parents had died. That person, of course, was Wang Ren. Before coming here, even before Qin Guang really opened his mouth, Wang Ren was very sure that this time, Zhou Xian was going to be in big trouble and she was going to embarrass herself. Previously, after inquiring about Qin Guang's name, Wang Ren was very much looking forward to it. He really wanted to see how this arrogant student who dared to talk back to him would be embarrassed in public. He only treated the whole thing as a big joke. This big joke would only have 2 main characters. One was Zhou Xian, the other was Qin Guang, and he, Wang Ren, could only be the real person behind the scenes with vested interests. The reason why he brought Vice Dean Han here was to let this Vice Dean, who had real power in the school, see Zhou Xian's embarrassing appearance with his own eyes. He wanted Vice Dean Han to directly lose face in front of his international friends. This way Zhou Xian could forget about making a comeback in the school in the future. If you still want to be put in an important position, you must go through my Wang Ren's hands-on support. If you are still not convinced, then I will make use of this matter to make a big deal out of it, and make you Zhou Xian completely lose face and dignity. But now he was completely confused. He suddenly came to realize that he was the biggest joke of all. No wonder Zhou Xian seemed to have become a different person in just a few minutes after returning. It turned out that not only was Qin Guang's English not low, it was actually high to this extent. He said it in Chinese just like that. And in English. This is not the plot I wanted at all. I have been played. Looking at the satisfied expression on Vice Dean Han's face, Wang Ren felt as uncomfortable as if he had eaten a fly. He had put in a lot of effort and even risked the possibility of being blamed by the higher-ups after this matter was messed up, to push Zhou Xian onto the gallows in his heart. In the end, my gallows actually became a stage for Qin Guang's one-man show? No matter how much pain Wang Ren felt, how uncomfortable and how speechless he was, he could only grit his teeth, swallow his blood, and from time to time had to cooperate with Vice Dean Han, who kept nodding at him. What made Wang Ren most uncomfortable was that Vice Dean Han thought he had the same opinion as him, nodded and said, "Not bad, this student named Qin Guang is really not bad. What do you think, Wang Ren?" Wang Ren gritted his teeth and could only squeeze out a sentence from between his teeth. "I think so too, really not bad." Little Zhu's working ability is also very strong. She has just taken over this class, and she has already unearthed a talent for our school. Vice Dean Han added salt to the wound again. Wang Ren squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying. "Yes, I also think quite highly of her." "Little Wang, are you feeling uncomfortable anywhere?" Vice Dean Han continued to add salt to the wound. Wang Ren lightly hammered his chest. "It's nothing, I think I didn't sleep well last night, a little angina." "What a heartache." Wang Ren never thought that Wang Ren would be pecked in the eye by a goose. "This wedding dress that I made for Zhou Xian, this time it is inlaid with gold and silver. I have become the reincarnation of Lei Feng." Chapter 132. The academic exchange meeting ended at around 12:30 in the afternoon. Of course, everyone was happy except for Wang Ren. By the time Zhou Xian, Vice Dean Han and Wang Ren sent Schmidt and his students out of the academy building, the meeting room had already been turned upside down. "Damn you, Qin Guang. You've kept us in the dark." Sun Xiaoxuan's voice rang out. "Brother Guang, think about it carefully. You've made us worried for the past few days. Hurry up and think of a way to make it up to us." Bai Nyangzi was indeed a pushover. Gaoye slapped Qin Guang's back hard. "Did you know?" Xiaoxuan started crying when she got up this morning to wash her face. She's still blaming herself for not being able to make an English version. "You have to give us an explanation. Why did you hide it from us?" "That's right. We can't help you this time either." "Gaoye is right. I support all of you," Lin Jingwei shouted. Qin Guang was completely disappointed in Lin Jingwei. If Gaoye said *tea smelled good, you would definitely smell it and nod your head, right? In the huge conference room, the crowd was really excited. Of course, everyone was just joking. Although everyone looked like they wanted to beat Qin Guang to death, their faces were brimming with smiles. Now that they thought about it, they initially thought that they would fail in the end. But who could have imagined that Qin Guang, who was once trash in English, would stand out to turn the tide? Everyone's hard work did not go to waste. They did not embarrass the Chinese people in front of the top students and the associate professor of MIT. This kind of wholehearted effort and finally success was the most satisfying thing. Everyone couldn't help but be unhappy. Qin Guang could also see that they were not really angry. After all, heroes were judged by success and failure. The old man had indeed saved the world today. "But, aren't you guys a little too king heavy-handed? My kidneys are about to fall out. This is a grudge. No, I have to save myself." He abruptly jumped onto the podium again and slammed the blackboard brush, using it as a gavel. "Silence. Silence, everyone. I have something to say. Go ahead, we're listening." At the critical moment, it was Xianxia, the simple-minded fellow, who stood up to help Qin Guang. Qin Guang gave him a thumbs up as a sign of praise. "I'll add a drumstick to your lunchbox when we get back. It won't be too late to beat him up after listening to him." Xianxia scratched his head and said honestly, "Oh my God, the chicken drumstick is gone. There was no more food. I will flatten your lunchbox." The old man was unhappy. As the savior, what kind of attitude was this? Show some respect to the savior. Let me ask you one thing. Think back to the time when you mocked me for not being able to pass the 4th level. How arrogant were you? How excessive. My fragile little heart has been trampled by you over and over again, and it has been trampled to the point of being broken into pieces. I purposely hid it from you. I wanted to give you a big surprise today. Now think again, look again. Do you feel that your faces are in pain? Did I slap your faces until they are swollen? Don't you feel ashamed? Since you are heartless, don't blame me for being unjust. Originally, I didn't want to go all the way with this face-slapping plan, but you forced me to do it. If I had a choice, I would also want to be a good person, but you didn't cherish the opportunity. Beat him up. Although the price of courting death was painful, Qin Guang's heart was indeed full of joy. 3 whole years of humiliation. Every time someone speaks English, I can't raise my head. I was almost stuck on the pillar of shame. Today I finally have a chance to turn things around, so how can I restrain myself? Also, luckily I protected my face, so the loss isn't too big. It's barely acceptable. But after the commotion, Qin Guang lowered his voice and told everyone the ins and outs of the matter. Only then did everyone understand that he was deliberately hiding it, not to make everyone worry for no reason, but because he had other plans. Everyone immediately forgave him. That's right, how could our family's Master Qin Guang's character be so bad? Let's put it this way. Although I trust everyone, no one here will take the initiative to tell that damn fatty Wang Ren. But I, Qin Guang, suddenly have such a high level of English. It's also a very domineering and cool thing. I'm just afraid that some of my brothers and sisters will accidentally spill the beans when chatting with people from other departments. If it reaches Wang Ren's ears, he'll make some trouble for me. If I can't come today, then wouldn't this matter be completely over? Teacher Zhou just started working and she already fell down like this. What can she do in the future? Fatty Wang, this scum is very poisonous. Qin Guang only said a few words lightly, but Fatty Wang immediately took the blame. Of course, what Qin Guang said was not a single word of falsehood. In the academy, Wang Ren really did have such a reputation. Faster thief. Wang Ren, this scum. I can't stand it anymore. I'm going to beat him to death. Xianxia was really irritable. He was the first to jump out. I thought he really restrained himself. No, I absolutely can't let this bastard continue to harm the girls in our academy. Save it. Save it. You still have a big mistake on your record. If you spit on him, it'll be enough for him to expel you. Qin Guang and the others hurriedly pulled him back. Xianxia exploded and roared. If I expel him, then I'll expel him. I don't want to go to this broken school anymore. I'm afraid of him. I'm a fierce tiger by Mudanjiang. I've never been afraid of anyone. When the first semester started, we saw your father. He's Wusong by Mudanjiang, your father, Xianxia. At the mention of his father, Xianxia immediately became quiet. If he really got expelled and went back to his hometown, his father would definitely hang him on a tree and beat him to death. But we can't let him act so unscrupulously. Xianxia was so angry that he said idioms. Lin Jingwei frowned at the side as if he was thinking of an idea. Gaoya silently ran to the podium and pulled out a black stick. It was the kind of stick used to point on the blackboard during lectures. I don't have any punishment on me. I'll go beat him a few times. After a lot of noise, Gaoya was finally stopped. But you guys calm down. This kind of thing isn't something we students can handle. What we can do is protect Teacher Zhou. Everyone understand? People like Wang Ren are righteous. Sooner or later he'll get what he deserves. But we have to be more rational when we do things, understand? Qin Guang, who was known as the Great Master, actually turned around and tried to persuade others. What are you guys whispering about? It's so noisy. Not a single one of you is proper. Oh, speak of the devil. Wang Ren, Vice President Han, and Zhou Jingxi actually came back at this time. The one speaking in a weird tone was none other than Wang Ren. Chapter 133. Immediately, the boys and girls took action and held down Xianxia and Gaoya, not giving them a chance to show off their skills. Of course, everyone's actions weren't very obvious. They just placed their hands on the two from all directions. Qin Guang also tried his best to signal the two with his eyes, telling them not to act rashly. Then he raised his eyebrows and whispered, "Don't worry, watch me. I'll deal 10,000 points of damage to him without a drop of blood. I guarantee it'll be more painful than beating him up." Everyone looked at Qin Guang's strange expression and remembered his miraculous method of turning the impossible into the possible. They believed him. Then Qin Guang turned around and walked toward Zhou Xian and the other two. Wang Ren saw that no one cared about his outburst. Moreover, the way the students looked at him was very strange. He immediately guessed that Qin Guang must have said something he shouldn't have. Therefore, his already ugly expression became even more gloomy. It was as if a layer of cumulonimbus clouds had covered his face, ready to rain and thunder at any time. However, today's incident was a good thing for the academy. Vice Dean Han, whom he had prepared to deal a fatal blow, was praising Zhou Xian. Wang Ren knew that he had to endure it. I'll endure it. I'll accept my loss today. However, this matter would not end like this. Just as Wang Ren was thinking about this, he looked up and saw Qin Guang walking toward him with a meaningful smile on his face. Director Wang, you asked us what we were mumbling about just now. Qin Guang stood in front of Zhou Xian and the other two and grinned, revealing his white teeth. Wang Ren really wanted to say that he didn't want to know. However, Qin Guang chuckled. We were just saying that this year's environmental engineering students are really lucky to have met such a good leader of the academy. Especially Director Wang, we're so grateful to him. On behalf of all the boys and girls in our class, I would like to thank you, Director Wang. Qin Guang chuckled and ignored Zhou Xian, who was constantly signaling him with her eyes. Instead, he stared at Wang Ren and said word by word. Although he was thanking Wang Ren, there was no smile on his face. Instead, there was a hint of mockery that only Wang Ren could understand. How could Zhou Xian not understand what Qin Guang was trying to do? Her vision darkened, but on second thought, with that brat Qin Guang's temper, he had already gone against Wang Ren before he had even completed his task. Now that he had achieved success, if he didn't viciously disgust Wang Ren, he would no longer be him. Forget it, I hope he can control himself a little and not go overboard. A debt of gratitude? Wang Ren was disgusted by this word. Who the hell wants to be indebted to you? Did you really just say that? Who are you trying to fool? But since Qin Guang said it like this, he really had to respond. Classmate Qin Guang, you're too modest. It's mainly because you've worked hard. Vice Principal Han really liked this student very much. Not to mention that he was brimming with talent. He was actually not arrogant at all. He had some achievements, but the first thing he wanted to do was to thank the leader. He was really a great talent. Today's morning was really not in vain. Therefore, Deputy Director Han smiled like a big peony in full bloom. He was very excited and patted Qin Guang's shoulder. He said heavily, Qin Guang, you're very good, very good. I hope that in the future in your studies, you will not be arrogant and impatient and continue to work hard. I have high hopes for you. Xiaozhu is also not bad. I'm very satisfied with your work. In this month's performance evaluation, I will personally give you a big A. I really didn't expect that because of Xiaoxian's illness, we pulled you over to be a firefighter. We pulled out a talent. Zhou Xian was embarrassed by Deputy Director Han's praise. She just waved her hand and said, Deputy Director Han, you're too kind. I'm just working hard to complete the task assigned by the leader. I don't deserve it, I don't deserve it. On the other side, Qin Guang turned his face to Deputy Director Han and smiled. From the long period of observation just now, coupled with Deputy Director Han's attitude at this time, Qin Guang understood that this old man was really not jackals of the same tribe as Wang Ren. I've misunderstood you. Deputy Director Han, your words are too serious. Although we are indeed proud of what happened today, we don't dare to take the main credit. This is all thanks to Director Wang. It was Director Wang who stood up against the majority and gave us the task that should have been assigned to the graduate school. We only have this opportunity. We really have to thank Director Wang. It was him who was willing to trust all the students in our environmental science class and our teacher Zhou. He stood up against the majority and gave us this opportunity that others could only dream of. We can win glory for the school. Director Wang, we really thank you. Thank you. Qin Guang turned his head and said the last half of the sentence to Wang Ren. Every word was like a detonator exploding from his mouth. His spittle sprayed all over Wang Ren's face. This bastard. He did it on purpose. Wang Ren's head was burning. He clenched his fists so tightly that the veins on his hands were popping. He really wanted to jump up and punch Qin Guang's smiling face. At this moment, Deputy Director Han, who was next to him, suddenly patted his shoulder. That's right. Xiao Wang, you have indeed made a great contribution in this matter. I'm ashamed to say it. When you said that little Zhou would lead her class, my heart was really beating like a drum. I didn't even want to agree to it. It was really you, little Wang, who insisted that little Zhuo's class would definitely not be a problem. That's why I finally agreed. Now that I think about it, I'm also in a cold sweat. Fortunately, you insisted again and again. That's why I got to see such a good show today. I almost missed out on a talent. Very good. Keep up the good work. As Deputy Director Han said that, he patted Wang Ren's shoulder fiercely again and again. In his heart he thought that he had indeed blamed him wrongly. This Wang Ren had really turned over a new leaf. He even knew how to help a new employee who had just joined the workforce. Deputy Director Han felt a little guilty in his heart. He patted even harder. The way he looked at Fatty Wang was also full of praise and affirmation. He looked very comforted. Old Han's seemingly encouraging slap landed on Fatty Wang's shoulder again and again. However, it turned into invisible flying knives. They were the kind with barbs. They fiercely stabbed into Wang Ren's heart that was about to shatter. Deputy Director Han's words sounded like praise, but it was like a torrential storm of pear blossom needles. It pierced the pitiful Wang Ren's heart full of holes. Wang Ren wished that he could just fling his sleeves and leave. However, he was the one who dragged Deputy Director Han here. At this time he was still praising him. This cold face could not be shaken off. Even if his heart was already twitching in displeasure and anger, he still had to squeeze out a smile as if he was receiving a lecture. This hypocrisy was the most uncomfortable. In turn, it further deepened his resentment. This is not what King wanted. Chapter 134. It seemed that Vice President Han had not praised Zhou Jingxi enough. He slapped his head again and said, "Oh yes, little Zhou, there is another thing. I didn't consider you at first, but now I think you can fight for it. Next month, the Youth League Committee will add a new officer. You have a strong working ability, a doctoral student, and a high understanding. You can give it a try." This kind of words coming from Vice President Han's mouth was almost equivalent to a clear statement of support. Zhou Jingxi was overjoyed. Wang Ren was completely furious. Zhou Jingxi had only joined the work for a short time. If she really went with this wind and rushed into the Youth League Committee, her wings would be completely hard. How could he carry out his work in the future? I went for wool and came home shorn. I suffered a bit too much. It was not a big deal. It was nothing more than a failure in the calculation. But the process and the result were so painful that Wang Ren could not bear it. What he hated the most was Qin Guang, this kid. He was unforgiving and knew how to disgust people. From the beginning, every word this guy said was to disgust him and embarrass him. He even brought Vice President Han into his trap, turning him into a knife in his hand, fiercely slashing at his heart again and again. But Vice President Han was completely unaware of it. Qin Guang's actions further magnified the resentment in Wang Ren's heart. Looking at this guy who wanted to kill someone but had to hold it in, the smile on Qin Guang's face became wider and wider. He put his hands behind his back and silently made an okay gesture to Sun Xiaoxuan and the other students. Everyone almost laughed out loud. Finally, Wang Ren's eyes suddenly turned white, his body went limp and he almost fell down. Qin Guang hurriedly added, "Director Wang, what's wrong with you? Are you not feeling well? You have to take care of your dragon body. How can the students of our school live without you?" Wang Ren slammed his fist on the door frame of the conference room next to him, startling Zhou Jingxi and Vice President Han. Zhou Jingxi knew that Qin Guang was about to make Fatty Wang collapse on the spot. She quickly reached out from the side and pulled Qin Guang's clothes, asking him to restrain himself a little. Before Deputy Director Han could speak again, Wang Ren said in a muffled voice, "I'm fine. I've been controlling my diet recently and my blood sugar is a little low. I'm not feeling too well. You guys chat, I'll take my leave first." With that, he suddenly turned around and left. He was afraid that if he continued to waste time like this, he would really lose control of his emotions. After Fatty Wang walked far away, Deputy Director Han scratched his bald head blankly. That's strange. Wasn't he suffering from angina just now? Why is it hypoglycemia again? After praising Vice President Han for a while, the old man finally left. Zhou Jingxi was young after all, and she even had the opportunity to become a committee member. Unable to contain her excitement, she clenched her fists tightly in front of everyone. Yup. When the other students saw what she was doing, they followed suit and started to do the same. Qin Guang looked at everyone with a face full of smiles, but a haze flashed in his eyes. When Fatty Wong left just now, the look in his eyes as if he wanted to skin him alive was too obvious. Qin Guang knew that this matter was not over yet. It gave him a slight headache. Why wasn't I the male protagonist in some cool and awesome urban novel? This kind of weak villain should be on his face at any moment, then tear his hands into 18 pieces in front of everyone and then roar at the sky. Those who submit to me will prosper, those who oppose me will die. Whoever dares to make me unhappy, I'll kill his entire family. Then Fatty Wong's backer popped out. Qin Guang, I want your entire family to die. Then I waved my hand and a certain high-ranking official with great power stepped on a 5-colored auspicious cloud and descended from the sky, becoming my Master Guang's prop to show off. He gave me a license to kill on the spot and pulled over 100 military vehicles, lining them up in a row in the area where Fatty Wong's blood was splattered. Who dares to touch my little brother Qin Guang? I'll kill him. Thus the 5 Jing police were shocked, the political world was shaken, and the business world was shocked. It turned out that in this inconspicuous Gokyo University, there was actually such a big shot. Although I don't know which hidden aristocratic family's descendant he is, with such a high-ranking military official supporting him, he will definitely become an influential figure in the vast land of Wuxia in the future. This person cannot be offended. Even if he kills one person a day 3 days in a row, he will still be given a medal, a banner, and praised for his good kill. Good kill. The law is set by him and the heavenly Tao is in his hands. From then on, my Master Guang will naturally walk on the path of a generation's king of acting tough, the proud dragon who will die if he stares at someone. The above are all Master Guang's indignant thoughts, and they are of no use at all. Your humble servant can't do it. But at this moment, when everyone is excited and happy, there is no need for him to voice out his worries and spoil everyone's mood for no reason. As for Fatty Wong's possible revenge, Qin Guang is not afraid. Although he has all kinds of nicknames in the academy, there are indeed not many black marks that Fatty Wong can use to make an issue out of. As long as he is upright and walks straight, he is naturally not afraid of petty people thinking about him. That night, Zhou Xian also spent a lot of money. She forked out her own money and brought the entire class of 30 people to the buffet outside the school to have a hearty meal. Every person is 50 yuan, and the total amount is close to 2,000 yuan, which almost used up the rest of her salary for this month. But Zhou Xian does not feel the slightest bit of heartache. She only cares about being happy. At the dining table, Qin Guang, the main contributor, almost became the target of everyone's drinking. Of course, his method of blocking the alcohol is also very good. He only raises his hand lightly. Do you see this meat dumpling that is wrapped tightly? My wounds are not healed yet, so I can't drink. I am now a glorious driver, so I must remember the principle of never driving after drinking. Even if I don't drive, I won't drink. I refuse to drink. Every single moment. Don't try to persuade Qin Guang to drink. He's injured, so he really can't drink. Sun Xiaoxuan, who was standing at the side, could not stand it anymore. He also stood up to speak up for Qin Guang and even pulled Gaoya, who was in high spirits. Yo, the two of you haven't even gotten married yet. Xiaoxuan, it's too early for you to side with him. Gaoya changed the topic and turned her head to tease Sun Xiaoxuan. Lin Jingwei said, that's right. Gaoya is right. The crowd made a ruckus, and the already small buffet hot pot restaurant became a mess. Zhou Xian was so embarrassed that she ran to the boss again and again to apologize. When it was about 9 o'clock, everyone finally staggered back to school. Qin Guang did not touch a single drop of alcohol, but Xiong drank a lot. However, his body was strong, so Qin Guang and Lin Jingwei had to carry him on each shoulder. Their faces were green from the weight. However, this guy was not obedient. As he was being supported, he shouted, I'm not drunk. I'm really not drunk. Let go of me. I can really drink another 2 ounces. At least. 2 ounces. Yes. 2 ounces. At least 2 ounces. You don't believe me? Look at my fingers. I can clearly count how many fingers I have on my hand. That proves that I'm not drunk. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. As soon as they entered the school gate, they felt the strange gazes from both sides. Qin Guang and Lin Jingwei wanted to hide their heads in their clothes. It was so king embarrassing. By the way, why didn't Rin Yuan and the others come? Xiong was a smart guy. He actually asked this. Lin Jingwei said nonchalantly, I went to inform them but they didn't come. Maybe it's because of Pan Zhang's incident that they feel embarrassed. Who cares what they're doing? I've already informed them anyway. In the end, Qin Guang did not send Xiong all the way to the dormitory. Instead he called Zhou Jingxi downstairs. It turned out that Zhou Jingxi suddenly remembered that she was so happy that she forgot everything else and had not changed Qin Guang's dressing. Despite Qin Guang's insistence that his wound was mostly healed and that he didn't need to change his dressing and even intended to remove the bandages tonight, Qin Guang still couldn't accept it. However, Zhou Jingxi firmly disagreed. She insisted that he follow her to the office in the school building to change the dressing. She even said that she bought a new medicine that could effectively prevent scars. Although Qin Guang was disdainful, he felt that as a man having a scar on his hand was a sign of dominance. Why would he need to remove a scar? However, Zhou Jingxi was a teacher and a counselor. She had the final say. He could not change her mind. Chapter 135. I have a feeling that Wang Ren won't let this go. On the way, Zhou Jingxi couldn't help but say this. Calling Qin Guang over to change his dressing was one reason, but the other reason was that she was still brooding over this. When the joy of success gradually calmed down, Zhou Jingxi also thought of this. Qin Guang squeezed his fist a little harder and the wound on his finger no longer hurt. He replied indifferently, Of course I know that, but it doesn't matter. He can't just fire me because I'm too handsome, right? If he wants to pick a fight with me, he has to have a good reason, right? Zhou Jingxi felt defeated by him. I'm serious. What are you sure about? Qin Guang flicked his hair. I'm serious too. When the two of them arrived near the school building, it was about 9:30 p.m. It was already dark and sparsely populated. After entering the academy building, the lights in the various offices and conference rooms were all dark, but only Vice Principal Han's office was still lit. Perhaps he had given another temporary task to the higher-ups, so he had to personally work overtime. Vice President Han is working hard. Qin Guang couldn't help but say this when the two of them entered Zhou Jingxi's office. Zhou Jingxi nodded. Exactly. That's why I said this morning that you can scold Fatty Wang, but you can't scold Vice President Han. Vice President Han is one of the few senior leaders in our school. He didn't have any connections and relied on his own academic standards to get to where he is today. There are at least 30 to 50 doctoral students under his tutelage. Qin Guang only smiled. He thought that teacher Zhou was too naive. There were so many academic seniors in the school, but only he could become the vice president. There was no doubt about his academic standards, but he didn't believe that he didn't have other tricks up his sleeves. Whether he believed it or not, it had nothing to do with Qin Guang. Zhou Jingxi carefully applied medicine to Qin Guang's wound while stealing glances at the little boy from time to time. In her heart, she was still thinking about Qin Guang's sloppy appearance when he ran out of the door that day. She felt a little strange and didn't know what was going on. From that day onwards, Qin Guang no longer had any flowery words or actions in front of him. He appeared to be like Zhou Wu Jingwang and all sorts of righteous people. To be honest, Zhou Jingxi was not used to it. She didn't want to admit that she was looking forward to something that shouldn't have happened. She was just puzzled. Of course, Zhou Jingxi had long seen through Sun Xiaoxuan's feelings for Qin Guang, and Gaoya had repeatedly pointed it out in front of her. Zhou Jingxi often reminded herself in her heart, I'm his teacher. I can't be stupid and do something like snatching a student's man, even though Qin Guang is really outstanding. However, when this change really happened to Qin Guang, Zhou Jingxi felt a faint sense of loss in her heart. How could she have known that Qin Guang had been so cheeky and daring that he had even taken the initiative to take advantage of her, purely because she was too depressed because of Fatty Wang's scheme? Even if she had jumped out to save her life, she still wouldn't have been able to boost her morale. Qin Guang didn't have any other good ideas to enlighten her, so he simply came up with this bad idea of taking advantage of her to distract her. Now it seemed that the effect was not bad. Perhaps it was a little too good. Qin Guang also felt the strange atmosphere in the office. He was a little flustered and even subconsciously pinched his chin with his left hand to hide his panic. In the dead of night, a man and a woman are alone, but teacher Zhou had to call me to her office. Could it be? She's planning to be honest, I'm really moved. But this plot is developing too fast and I can't take it. Teacher Zhou, at least give me a little time to calm down and let me think about it. At least give me 3 days. You directly made the plot so fierce, like a waterfall from Mount Lu rushing down 3,000 feet straight down. I'm a little caught off guard. Qin Guang secretly swallowed his saliva and couldn't help but sweep his eyes over Zhou Jingxi. At this time she was lowering her head and bending over, concentrating on fiddling with Qin Guang's right hand. Qin Guang's gaze followed Zhou Jingxi's neckline without any hindrance. That's right, this was the scene that Qin Guang had fantasized about when he was alone. This time his dream had come true. Zhou Jingxi was 172 meters tall, and she was even more voluptuous than Wenwen. It was a hot summer, but she only wore a snow-white professional shirt and didn't button the top button. From this angle of view, the 2 full moons were exposed, and Zhou Jingxi's sky-blue laced breastplate reminded Qin Guang of a scene when he was playing Dota. He controlled the void mask and suddenly cut in with a perfect big move, Big 5. Moreover, it was a perfect juxtaposition of 2 big moves of the void mask. It was also known as the double refresh ball. Alright, this was too profound. It was 2 semicircles of the time freeze ball, 2 sky blue hemispheres. This was too scary. This was more than just time freeze. Even the thought of me, the savior of the heavenly holy grail, was about to freeze. My physical body was also about to be frozen. Not good, the power that the old man had suppressed for a long time was about to go out of control again. She was so close now and I was wearing thin Hawaiian shorts. If the dragon raised its head, the sky would definitely fall and the earth would crack, severely injuring her eyes and destroying my glorious image in her heart. What should I do? What could he do to suppress this terrifying desolate force? Qin Guang was burning with anxiety as he immediately shifted his gaze away and looked around Zhou Jingxi's office. What was that? Why didn't I notice it before? In the corner of the office next to the curtain, Qin Guang found a very interesting thing. It was not a thing but a set. It was a set of medieval knight armor. It looked quite new and the workmanship was also quite good. The helmet and visor were quite exquisite. When flipped, it could completely cover the whole face. Awesome. Even had gloves. This workmanship, this thought it was a high-end product. As a professional who had been in Big Beard Deng's crew, Qin Guang boasted that he knew the ropes. He was really attracted by this interesting thing. He could not help but imagine how it would feel when he wore this armor. It must be quite powerful and domineering, right? Amazing, really amazing. No matter who wore this, as long as they flipped the visor down, they would have an omnidirectional defense without any blind spots. This thing looked very valuable. Could it be that Teacher Zhou was a rich second-generation kid who had been hiding his strength? I've underestimated you. Can I move it and sell it? Since we're friends, I'll do it. That's Teacher Shin's collection. He likes this kind of thing, so he didn't have time to take it with him. I thought it was in the way, so I moved it to the corner. It's so heavy that I'm exhausted. Teacher Shin already called me. In 2 days he'll ask someone to help him move it. Didn't you notice before? It seems that you haven't been to Teacher Shin's office in the past few years. Zhou Jingxi noticed the look in Qin Guang's eyes. Qin Guang laughed. Why would I come to the counselor's office for no reason? It's not like I'm doing anything bad. It's actually Teacher Shin's stuff. I can't turn on begging mode. But this thing looks really good. Teacher Shin has good taste. I really want to try it on. Its defense is 8 streets better than Big Beard Deng's. Teacher Zhou, I want to try it on. Can you take a few pictures of me later? I'll post it on my friend circle to show off. Zhou Jingxi tied the thin layer of gauze around Qin Guang's hand and frowned. This isn't very good, right? 30 minutes later. Hey, just like this. Raise your hand a little higher. That's right, that's right. It feels so cool. Chapter 136. Qin Guang, look at this one. It's so beautiful, just like the general in the Song of Ice and Fire. After clicking countless times, Zhou Jingxi held her phone and waved it in front of Qin Guang, who was still wearing his armor. Although she said no, her body was honest. When the photo was taken, she was even more excited than Qin Guang himself. She looked like a little girl. Qin Guang lifted his visor and wiped his sweat. He thought that it was very handsome, but it was really stuffy. It turned out that there was a layer of skin inside the armor. It was airtight. Teacher Zhou, I disagree with your sense of aesthetics. The photo you mentioned was taken when I covered my visor. It didn't show my face, so it's missing the biggest highlight. It's not the most handsome. Qin Guang was still very stubborn about his face. While the two were happily whispering, there was a sudden knock on Zhou Jingxi's office door. Dong dong dong. It was the middle of the night. It was like a ghost. Little Zhou, are you still inside? So late. You're still working overtime? Deputy Director Han's voice came from outside. Perhaps Deputy Director Han had finished his overtime work and came over to say hello. Fortunately, it was not a ghost. The two let out a long sigh. Then they looked at each other and saw an inexplicable fear in each other's eyes. Although there were no ghosts outside, there were ghosts in their hearts. Deputy Director Han was outside the door. This was not something to be happy about. Perhaps it was even more haunted? At this moment, in the dead of night, a man and a woman, a teacher and a student sharing a room. If this situation was broken by Deputy Director Han, it would definitely be like yellow mud falling into his pants. Even if it was not sh*t, it was sh*t. He would not be able to wash himself clean even if he jumped into the Yellow River. Deputy Director Han waited for a while. There was no movement, so he knocked on the door again. Fortunately, he was much more polite than that damn fatty Wang Ren. He did not barge in without saying anything. Little Zhou, are you there? This young man, did he go home without turning off the lights? What a sloppy tiger. Forget it, I'll turn off the lights. I'll talk to him tomorrow. While talking to himself, Deputy Director Han opened the door. Your manners can only last for 10 seconds. Zhou Jingxi turned her hand over and pulled on Qin Guang's mask. With a slap, she covered his face tightly. Then she turned around abruptly and smiled awkwardly at Vice President Han, who had just walked in. She even pretended to rub her eyes. Hey, President Han, I'm here. I'm about to open the door. Sigh, I was a little sleepy and fell asleep on the table. Sorry about that. At this moment, Qin Guang's hands were hanging by his side and his neck was straight like a zombie, not daring to move at all. Damn, I was scared to death. Sure enough, the older the ginger, the spicier it is. Teacher Zhou hasn't been eating more rice than me for nothing. I give her full marks for her ability to improvise. This armor covers my entire body. As long as I maintain this posture and don't move, I will definitely not be seen through. Old Man Han will definitely treat me as the real armor. It was a sure win. Damn, it was really King hot. Deputy Director Han didn't suspect anything. He walked in 2 or 3 steps, smiled and said, Little Zhou, you just started working. I understand your eagerness to get results, but don't work too hard. Especially you girls, you should pay more attention to the balance between work and rest. Zhou Jingxi nodded repeatedly. Yes, thank you for your teachings, President Han. I will definitely remember. And that's good. Alright, about Wang Ren, Sai. There are some things that I can't say clearly. Wang Ren, this person has indeed gone overboard. But this is the way of the world. We can't change others. We can only try our best to do our best. In short, don't worry. In this academy there are still people who understand. I will find a way to get you into the committee as soon as possible. No matter how hard Wang Ren's hands are, he won't be able to reach into the committee. Just hold on for now. I really think highly of you. Don't be discouraged and don't be resentful. You are a talent and you will eventually shine. These words seem to be the real reason why Deputy Director Han had come so late today. Zhou Jingxi nodded. Thank you, Deputy Director Han. What are you thanking me for? Your teacher and I have been best friends for many years. How can I not protect her student? In any case, if you really can't stop Wang Ren, come and find me. I will help you think of a way, Deputy Director Han said. Zhou Jingxi grunted in agreement. Although she was touched, she was thinking, my Deputy Director, it's already so late. You're already so old. You should hurry back and rest. Then this matter ends here? Deputy Director Han asked again. Zhou Jingxi secretly panted. This old man was finally going to leave. Qin Guang was about to get sick from the heat, right? Qin Guang was also thanking the heavens. There was a spot on his butt that was itching. I really want to scratch it. Help. Alright, you are fiddling with this armor. Deputy Director Han suddenly said. Zhou Jingxi was so scared that her body went limp. Qin Guang, on the other hand, almost fell on his back. Old man, I feel that there is more to what you said. Can you say it all at once? I was just planning to move it. The place where I live is very close to Little Shen's house. He asked me to help him bring it back. You know how much Little Shen cares about these things. However, this armor is very expensive. It would be too conspicuous to move it in broad daylight. It's just right now. Deputy Director Han said as he touched Qin Guang's shoulder armor. Then he used his finger to knock on the breastplate a few times. It's okay. It doesn't look very thick. It shouldn't be heavy. Qin Guang expressed that he hoped that Old Man Han would not finish his sentence. Also, can you stop knocking? I am so nervous. Zhou Xian looked at this scene and stared blankly with her almond-shaped eyes. She was completely confused and her brain stopped working. She could imagine how frightened Deputy Director Han would be when Qin Guang jumped out of the armor like Sun Wukong. Then what kind of psychological trauma would be left in this poor old man's heart? What was even more tragic was that as a talent who had just been determined, her short career seemed to be coming to an end. On the other side, Old Man Han had already bent down and hugged Qin Guang's waist. He used a little force and tried to lift it up. Zhou Xian's face was already ashen. She gave up struggling. She was going to be exposed. But my waist. Why is it so heavy? Old Man Han suddenly cried out in shock. His body stiffened. He used his hands to support his waist and stepped back. Oh my God, how can it not be heavy? There is a person inside. Zhou Xian was pulled back to reality by Old Man Han's cry. She hurriedly went forward to support him. Are you okay? Old Man Han supported his waist and twisted slightly. It's okay. I'm old and underestimated this armor. I didn't use my strength well and it flashed a little. That's weird. Little Shin clearly told me it wasn't heavy. As he said that, he moved forward again. He still did not give up. Zhou Xian finally came to her senses. She suddenly blocked in front of Old Man Han and said, Deputy Director Han, don't waste your energy. Let me carry it. Deputy Director Han shook his head and waved his hand. It's too heavy. You're a little girl. It's impossible. Why don't the two of us carry it? Carry it? Zhou Xian's face turned pale. She had persisted until now and had not been exposed. But if she carried it, she would definitely not be able to hold it. What should she do? What should she do? Qin Guang's face was full of tears. Really, quickly teach me a teleportation technique. My situation is a little too awkward. Chapter 137. Perhaps the god of brain teasers was favoring Zhou Xian. She clapped her hands so hard that even old Han jumped in fright. Dean Han, you can go to your office and rest first. I can move it over by myself. Of course, it's too heavy to carry the whole thing. How could I dare to let you carry me? What if I really sprain your waist? Wouldn't I have committed a great sin today? I just thought about this thing and it can be taken apart. I'll do it alone, dismantle it and move it over. I just need to make 2 more trips. Zhou Xian was determined not to let old Han touch the armor again. Deputy Director Han was very touched. Young people nowadays really knew how to sympathize with the elderly. He also felt that Zhou Xian's idea was not bad. He thought to himself, it just so happens that I haven't compressed the report and sent it out yet. That's fine too. This is my car key. It's the Buick MPV in the parking lot below. There are many children at home. It's more convenient to bring the whole family out to play in the MPV. It's also quite spacious to carry things. As he spoke, old Han took out his car keys and placed it in Zhou Xian's hand. Then I'll leave it to you. But don't try to show off. If you really can't open it, call me over to help you move it. I have a report to send to the Chinese Academy of Sciences, so I have to get back to work. It's getting late and if I drive any later I won't be able to see clearly. After sending old Han out, Zhou Xian quickly but gently closed the office door. On the other side, Qin Guang had already lifted his visor and was panting heavily. You scared me to death, you scared me to death. Zhou Xian patted her chest, still in a state of shock. Qin Guang, on the other hand, was huffing and puffing. I'm suffocating to death. Quick, help me take it off. Zhou Xian shook her head vehemently. You can't take it off here. Have you forgotten how troublesome it is to put this thing on? It took almost half an hour for you to put it on just now, and it will take at least 10 to 20 minutes to take it off. What if President Han comes over again and sees me taking off the armor from your body? What will he think? Wouldn't all our previous efforts be in vain? Qin Guang nodded. That makes sense. Then what should we do? What should we do? First, take off these iron shoes on your legs. While President Han's door is closed, you will wear your armor and go downstairs with me. Go directly to President Han's car, take off one piece and throw one inside. It won't be easy for him to see me taking off my clothes over there. I'll stand next to the car so I can be prepared in advance. Hurry up and hide in the bushes next to the parking lot after you're done taking off your clothes. Even if you haven't taken all of them off, you can hide them in the bushes when he comes. Just don't let him catch you. Qin Guang was overjoyed. As expected of Teacher Zhou. You've thought of everything. 20 minutes later, Qin Guang was lying in the back cabin of the Buick MPV, feeling the bumpiness of the car and the pain of being knocked by the armor on his body from time to time. He felt a little melancholy in his heart. In front of him, old Han was driving while wailing like a ghost and howling like a wolf. His entire body was sweating like rain and Qin Guang's entire face was flushed red. If it wasn't for the benevolent old Han turning on the car's air conditioner, a cool breeze would sweep over from the back of the seat from time to time and blow on Qin Guang's face. Qin Guang felt that he was almost half-cooked. Don't ask me why I'm here and why I'm in this situation. I really want to know why too. I just want to quietly think about how I'm going to face the rest of my life. Perhaps it wouldn't be long before old Han also had to think about this problem. After all, his singing was really a little unworthy of his poor car CD. Zhou Xianxi's thoughts were completely correct. It was only this world that was wrong. The two of them had just sneakily run to the back cabin of old Han's car, and this old man had actually already finished sending the email and ran down. At this moment, Qin Guang had only taken off the pair of combat boots on his feet. Zhou Xianxi's brain crashed once again. Women in the end were still not calm enough. Qin Guang's reaction was still fast. He slipped into the back cabin of the MPV, then silently curled up his body and laid down horizontally. Then under Zhou Xianxi's dumbfounded gaze he gently and silently covered the visor. Qin Guang felt that the look in his eyes when he faced death with equanimity was definitely comparable to that of a brave warrior who dared to face death. After all, I've preserved the last bit of my spark and until now I haven't exposed myself. Zhou Xianxi silently placed the combat boots next to Qin Guang's face, then silently pulled down the back cabin cover. Then she turned to old Han who was walking over and put on a smile of success. Vice President Han, I moved everything here in one go. Just now the armor was hanging on the side of the table leg. It's actually not that heavy. As she spoke, Zhou Xianxi pretended to pat the dust off her palms and grinned. Vice President Han was amused. As expected of little Zhou. We'll see the truth in the details. Although this isn't a big deal, your ability to adapt to the situation is really not bad. After taking the keys from Zhou Xianxi, old Han drove away, leaving Zhou Xianxi alone in the wind at a loss as to what to do. Through the car window, looking at the dim yellow streetlights that kept receding, listening to old Han's heart-wrenching singing, Qin Guang thought of many things in his mind, but none of them were useful. I have no regrets in my life. That was my youth that turned to dust. That day in the God of Racing Cup, little Otto luckily escaped the tragedy of the nutrition pod in the God of Racing Cup by relying on the mosaic. But he could hide from the monk but not the temple. He could hide now but he could not hide forever. In the end he was still trapped in such an unlucky armor. After old Han drove the car to the underground parking lot, he only moved his head from the driver's seat to the back to take a look at the armor, but he did not touch it again. He only muttered to himself, "Let little Shin pick it up tomorrow, I won't carry it home." Then old Han got out of the car, locked the door, and the plateau red reverberated in the underground parking lot, gradually getting further and further away. After waiting for about 2 to 3 minutes, Qin Guang slowly straightened up. Then with tears in his eyes he painstakingly took off the armor on his body, piece by piece. His movements could not be stretched and it was really difficult to take off the armor. It took more than 20 minutes and Qin Guang felt like he was about to collapse, before he finally took off the last piece of armor. But this was not the end. He had to shrink his body, reassemble the armor, and return to the appearance he was lying down in. By the time he was done it was almost midnight outside. Then Qin Guang finally crawled forward to the driver's seat, opened the door from the inside, and breathed in a breath of fresh air, blowing away the salt stains left by the dried sweat on his body. He felt that a 3-hour sauna was nothing more than this, right? When he went back and weighed himself he would lose at least 3 kilograms. But he could not leave yet, so he waited in the same place for another 2 minutes. Finally he heard the Buick MPV's door lock click, and it locked automatically. Only then did he dare to leave boldly. After 2 steps he sat down weakly, leaning against the pillar of the underground parking lot. "Oh, I have to rest. Oh my God, it really feels like I've died once. It's more difficult than fighting with people in the sea of fleeting time. I've only seen 2 of the Void Mask's big moves today, and this retribution has come a little too fiercely. He suddenly thought of something, picked up his phone and sent a text message to Zhou Xian. You've successfully escaped. Everything is fine. Go to sleep peacefully. Although he said so, Qin Guang's exciting journey today was not over, because there was a bearded man in a security uniform standing in front of him, holding a strong flashlight and shooting it at his eyes. Kid, who are you? What are you doing here? Chapter 138. Qin Guang took a few deep breaths, slowly stood up, shook off the salt on his body and tossed his head in what he thought was a confident manner. If I said I was here to look at the scenery, would you believe me? Roughly half an hour later, Qin Guang was finally released from the security office in this district. Thank God he had his student ID and ID with him. Once he explained his identity, he explained the English Premier League match that was being broadcasted on ESPN's English channel to these guys on the spot in the security office. In other words, he translated the ESPN commentator's extremely fast explanation into Chinese at an even faster speed. The security guards were immediately convinced and didn't ask him how suspicious his actions were, nor did they try to get him to contact the Wuxia University teacher who lived in the neighborhood. With a shaken heart, Qin Guang walked out of the neighborhood, looked at the empty street outside and then looked at the time on his phone. Damn, it was already 1 a.m. and he felt even more melancholy. I pinched my fingers and calculated at this time, it would cost at least 180 kuai to take a taxi back to school from here. Forget it, I'll just take 2 steps forward and ask for help. But according to my years of experience as an internet driver at this time, normal drivers wouldn't accept an order from the city center to a suburban town like Wuxia town, even if they knew that Wuxia University was there. Qin Guang didn't give up and sent out an order. Maybe he could meet some abnormal people in the same industry? After waiting for about 20 minutes, he knelt down. In the end, there are still more normal people in this world. He swung the ham in his hand and walked along the riverside path at the edge of the neighborhood to the main road. When he thought about how he could only take a green taxi and pay the ridiculous night fare and an unknown amount of return fee, he felt a faint sense of sadness in his heart. This was really the greatest shame of an internet driver's life. Just as he was feeling sad, a shout suddenly came from the river in front of him. Stop. Stop right there. It was a man's loud shout. Qin Guang leaned slightly to the other side of the road, wanting to see what was going on. If curiosity could really kill a cat, cats would have long gone extinct in this world. My Lord Guang doesn't believe in that. Along the riverbank they saw a tall, lean man leading the way, running wildly. In his hand, there was a cold glint that flickered under the illumination of the street lamp. It was clearly a murder weapon. Behind him there were 7 or 8 people chasing after him desperately. Among the 7 or 8 people, 3 or 4 were in plain clothes, while the other 3 or 4 were in police uniforms. The police caught the thief. Qin Guang frowned and thought to himself, with my meddlesome personality, I'm afraid I won't be able to endure it. But I didn't take their salary nor did I eat their meals. The tall man in front of me looked very fierce. If I rashly made a move and cut this guy, wouldn't I suffer a huge loss? While he was hesitating, there was another change. In the bushes by the river not far in front of Qin Guang, a strong figure suddenly rushed out. Without making a sound, it was like a hungry tiger pouncing on the skinny man who was running for his life. The figure rushed out like lightning, but the skinny man was extremely vigilant. He nimbly moved to the side and counterattacked with the short knife in his hand. Seeing that the situation was not good, the skinny man took 2 steps back and barely avoided it. Qin Guang's eyes turned. Damn, based on my years of experience, this must be a policewoman. No, I can't make another move. There's already a damn policewoman in my life. If there's another one, my short life will probably be ruined. Wu Tong. Be careful. Just as Qin Guang was letting his imagination run wild, a male policeman in plain clothes who was 3 or 4 meters away from the skinny man suddenly shouted. It's okay. Don't come up. Leave this little bastard to me. The strong voice immediately responded but did not stop. He brazenly pulled out his baton and pounced on the skinny man again. Qin Guang was dumbfounded. What a coincidence. That woman is Wu Tong and the man behind is Wang Long? Is this even possible? Wujing City is so big and there are tens of thousands of good citizens. It's already late at night and I accidentally came here. How could I bump into you? Big sister, it's a bit unreasonable of you to force the scene. In such a short period of time, Wu Tong and the skinny man had already determined the winner. Since the last battle with Brother Scar, Wu Tong had obviously put in a lot of effort. She used the upside-down part of the baton to knock the short knife out of the skinny man's hand. The skinny man lost his weapon and did not dare to fight again. He ran to the side, shook off Wu Tong and ran in the direction of the main road, which happened to be in the direction of Qinguang. Qinguang was happy. This man is really a wonderful person. Since the credit is delivered to my door, I don't want to take it. Anyway, I have no weapon in my hand. He just stood on the side of the road like a telephone pole, not moving a bit. He covered his face with his hands, looking like a frightened person who did not know the truth. The tall skinny man fled in panic, but he saw a young man in front of him. He shouted, "Get out of my way." Wu Tong, who was behind him, did not see Qinguang's face clearly because of the light. She also shouted, "Get out of my way. He's a vicious robber." Qinguang pretended to come back to his senses. He was very frightened and moved to the side, but he did not let go of his hands that were covering his face. He said, Okay. Then when the skinny man passed by him, he just silently stretched out his leg and tripped the man's foot. The unlucky robber fell straight to the ground. He rolled on the ground, endured the pain and quickly tried to get up. He cursed, "I'll remember you. Wait for me." Before his voice died away, Qinguang suddenly rushed to the man's side like lightning. He lifted his leg and used the tomahawk kick from above. His heel aimed at the man's waist. This guy is really karma. He just threatened me and I'm done for. Qinguang's kick was from a tricky angle and the force was fierce. It hit the man's vital point. No matter how vicious the criminal was, he would instantly lose all his ability to resist. Qinguang's reaction was quite fast. Without thinking, he covered his face and ran in Wu Tong's direction. Quickly cover his eyes. I don't want him to remember my face. Wu Tong was stunned at first. Qinguang. Then she immediately realized that she was in the middle of a case. She said, "Wait for me." Then the violent woman rushed to the front and handcuffed the tall skinny man tightly. She pressed her knee against his back and pressed him down. "Run. Where do you think you're going?" The man had just recovered from the pain from Qinguang's kick. He knew that there was no way he could struggle today. He turned his head and desperately looked in Qinguang's direction. He thought fiercely, this brat actually dares to act bravely for a just cause. Wait for me to come out. I'll let you go and I'll be a good person for the rest of my life. F***ck. This brat really knows his stuff. He must be my greatest enemy. Chapter 139. At this time Qinguang had already pulled up his sweaty shirt and covered the bridge of his nose, revealing only his eyes. He looked sinisterly at the tall, lean man who was pinned to the ground. His face was full of an expression that was asking for a beating. Come on, come hit me." When Wang Long passed by Qinguang, he only gave him a slight look. Then, following Qinguang's thoughts, he rushed forward, took out a black burlap bag and covered the wanted criminal's head. After everything was done, Wang Long and the others escorted the man away. Wu Tong used the excuse of resting to pull Qinguang's but to sit on a chair by the river. She interrogated him, "You brat, why aren't you going back to school in the middle of the night? Why are you strolling by the river? What are you up to? Did you do something bad to a girl from a good family?" Qinguang glanced at her disdainfully. "You should show some respect to good citizens who act bravely for a just cause. What kind of attitude is that? How dare you question my character?" However, Qinguang was thinking in his heart that he couldn't let her know the truth. After all, he wasn't the kind of person who would tell others about his misfortune. "Anyway, I won't say it even if you beat me to death. You can guess however you want." Wu Tong pinched his shoulder in annoyance. "I'm your sister and elder. Of course I have the right to control you." "Bah. Since when did you become my sister? I don't acknowledge it at all." Qinguang thought, if it weren't for the fact that I don't have a car and can't bear to spend money on a taxi, I would have waited for you to give me a lift back to Wenxing town. Who the hell would accompany you here talking nonsense? You ought just accept your fate. Anyway, what you said in Pan Zhang's ward that day, I admitted it all on the spot. Now you want to deny it? No way. Wu Tong chuckled. She loved to see Qinguang fuming with rage, but there was nothing he could do about it. She felt that today was really fate. She went out to catch a thief and she followed him all the way to the city center. It was even in the middle of the night and she actually bumped into him. What made Wu Tong the happiest was that Qin Guang was now sweaty and smelly. Although Wu Tong said those words, she didn't think that he had a secret date with a girl. How could a date be so smelly? In fact, her heart was in a mess these past few days. She felt that it was very likely that she was sick and very sick. That was why she practiced boxing with all her might. Only when she was bombarding the target would she be able to completely forget about those unimaginable thoughts in her mind. She still couldn't forget the strange incident that happened that night at the police station. Even if the bitter and unforgettable feelings at that time were long gone with the wind, the taste and feelings still lingered. The next day, when Qin Guang used her sister's name to scare Pan Jiang, Wu Tong didn't feel disgusted at all. Instead, she was secretly delighted and immediately accepted it. In retrospect, she found it unbelievable. Could it be that I really like him? The Prince Charming in her heart was obviously a tall and mighty unrivaled hero. What was so attractive about this young and ignorant brat? But no matter how she found thousands of reasons and thousands of excuses in her heart, she still couldn't convince herself to completely forget the palpitations of that night. She hadn't seen Qin Guang for the past few days, and from time to time, this brat's mischievous smile would appear in her mind. I'm simply a ghost. I'm possessed. Then today she met him here and coincidentally she helped him a lot by catching a very fierce robber. Wu Tong absolutely didn't want to admit it, but she was really happy in her heart. She was especially relaxed, so she deliberately teased him like this. Forget it. You want me to recognize you as my god sister? Please go on the internet and check what F***ck sister means. Qin Guang was a little regretful. Maybe he shouldn't have used this policewoman to show off in front of Pan Jiang that day. It seemed that he had invited trouble for himself. Sure enough, after listening to his excessive teasing, Wu Tong actually didn't get angry. She just blushed and slapped him on the shoulder. You impudent brat, you even dare to tease your sister? Believe it or not, I'll catch you and interrogate you. Qin Guang was dumbfounded. Damn it, there's definitely something wrong with her current state. Big sister, I'm teasing a good policewoman in public. Can't you be angry for me to see? Could it be that she really likes me? There's no reason for that. Didn't I also eat Lioli's spiritual secret technique? Now my acting skills are still in the negatives, but you've become so undignified. Qin Guang had forgotten that what Lioli gave him was only deep hypnosis, making him think that he was a movie king. What Lioli gave Wu Tong was more high-end, more valiant and more emotional control. Of course, the two couldn't be mentioned in the same breath. There were a lot of coincidences that led to her current state. If Wu Tong was a man, even if she loved him to death at that time, as time passed, even if there was still some lingering feelings left, it would definitely be completely suppressed and erased by the unbearable disgust as time passed. But Wu Tong was a woman and a virgin at that. No matter how stubborn she was, it couldn't change the fact that Qin Guang wasn't annoying. He was good-looking, had a great body, and although he was a little hot-tempered, he also had a sense of justice. Although it was impulsive to injure Pan Jiang, his motive was to uphold justice. No matter how tough Wu Tong was, she was still a normal woman. Coupled with the lingering feelings of emotional control, it was reasonable for her to have feelings for this handsome young college student who had a sense of justice. In the end, Qin Guang pinched his nose and acknowledged this cheap sister. After all, she was really quite beautiful. He took Wu Tong's Wrangler back to Wenxing town, and Wu Tong sent him all the way to the school gate. When they passed by the school wall at the corner, Qin Guang got out of the car first. This brat actually climbed over the wall. Leaning against the car window, Wu Tong watched Qin Guang jump over the school wall with his butt in the air. Then he nimbly flipped over the wall. Separated by the iron fence, he turned back and waved, then walked inside without looking back. Wu Tong's chin rested on the window as she watched the kid's back. In that instant, an emotion called reluctance surfaced in her heart. Then she suddenly sat up straight and looked at her pale face in the rearview mirror. She slapped her beautiful face and said to herself, "I'm crazy." Dragging his exhausted body, Qin Guang finally returned to the dorm at 2 o'clock in the morning. He quietly stood at the door for a few minutes, and sure enough, he heard Lin Jingwei and Bai Nyangzi whispering to each other. When Qin Guang heard this, his balls ached. These two grandsons really didn't have anything good to say. He finally understood what it meant by bad friends being the hardest to deal with in this world. Little Lin, don't you think Brother Guang's luck with women is a bit too good? Forget about when university's campus belle and class rep's son. It seems like even teacher Zhou has fallen for him. I keep feeling like our future is a bit bleak. We're too close to Brother Guang and we hang out all day long. As long as a beauty appears in our social circle, we'll definitely be attracted to him. Just thinking about it makes me feel sad for myself. Shut up, Xianxia. You just need to like men. Faster see. Be careful or I'll climb into your bed while you're asleep and *CKU. Qin Guang smiled knowingly. Little Lin was a good friend and not as poisonous as Xianxia. Unexpectedly, after a short moment of silence, Lin Jingwei said, "That's right. He's not back yet, so teacher Zhou will probably be on sick leave tomorrow. Anyway, I'll go to the lab tomorrow and steal a bottle of sulfuric acid. If Gaoya also likes him, I'll splash sulfuric acid on his face. Faster thief. I'll chop you 2 grandsons to death." Chapter 140. Fiercely pushing open the door, Qin Guang strode in. Lin Bai and Bai Nianwei, who were very energetic in their writing, were dumbfounded. With the bright white moonlight shining in through the window, the two clearly saw the rather ugly expression on Qin Guang's face. "Oh, my brother Guang. Why did you come back so late? You scared me to death." Bai Nianxi laughed. Qin Guang rolled his eyes. "Yeah, if I didn't come back any later, you two would have written a book called Young Ah Guang and Young Married Teacher Zhua." The two laughed awkwardly. Lin Jingwei's face was red. "How could that be? You can't blame us. It was you who came back late and caused a misunderstanding. Although Bai Nianxi made a wild guess, our original intention was to bless you. In this era, teacher-student relationships aren't that important. Teacher Zhua isn't that old and he's very close to us. We all support you. Continue to lie for me. I want to see how many flowers you can weave." Qin Guang pointed at Lin Jingwei. "Where's your sulfuric acid? How many liters do you need to drink? I've never seen such a shameless person. Damn, it was you who said that teacher Zhou was going to call in sick tomorrow." Lin Jingwei's square face turned red and he cursed his bad luck in his heart. How did they just happen to hear this part? Everyone thought that you wouldn't be coming back tonight. You're a bit unreasonable. Quietly guarding the door at 2 in the morning, eavesdropping on us. It's impossible to guard against. Huff huff huff. The drunk Xianxia was lucky enough to escape. After all, he was already this drunk and couldn't participate in the bedtime discussion. "If I don't poke you two upside down today, my name isn't Qin Guang." Qin Guang was too lazy to explain to these two that there was actually nothing going on between him and teacher Zhua. After all, if he told the truth, wouldn't it be even more awkward? Then he sat down on his chair, took out a brand new pencil and began sharpening it. It was said in Jianghu that many years ago Qin Guang had a unique skill. People called it the pencil kill. It was extremely ferocious and had once set off a bloody storm in Jianghu. It was only after he had injured a classmate that he was hung up and beaten by his father for 2 hours that he sealed this unique skill in ice. This was already something that happened in junior high school. Today he decided to restart his unique skills and teach Lin Jingwei and Bai Fan, the two fellows who had randomly arranged their stances. Seeing that he began to sharpen his pencil without saying a word, Lin Jingwei and Bai Fan were so scared that they almost peed their pants and jumped out of bed. This guy was really angry. Both of them had heard Qin Guang boast about the illustrious achievements of his pencil-killing technique. Now that the ice-sealing artifact had reappeared in the world, it was going to stir up a rain of blood again. The ones who were in danger were themselves. Not daring to delay any longer, the two of them jumped off the bed and pulled on Qin Guang's shoulders. "Oh, my brother Guang. Don't be like this, calm down. Brothers, don't you understand us? Didn't we learn our cheap mouths from you? How could we have thought that you would come back at this time and happen to hear us? Please be magnanimous and spare ye." Bai Nianxi was not only good at sharpening his tongue, but he was also good at begging for mercy. Lin Jingwei chuckled as he massaged Qin Guang's shoulders and legs. "Big brother Guang, slow down. Don't tire yourself out and don't injure your hands. The injury on your right hand hasn't healed yet. It's not suitable for strenuous exercise. Go to bed early and rest." Qin Guang didn't even raise his head. "Go and pour a glass of water for me." Of course, he didn't really want to poke these two people. Since he knew the danger of this kind of dangerous action, he wouldn't use it as a joke anymore. He just wanted to scare these two grandsons so that they wouldn't be able to keep their mouths shut and make up all kinds of things about him. Lin Jingwei gave him a look, and Bai Nyangzi picked up the glass and ran out of the living room to find the water dispenser to pour water. When Bai Nyangzi came back with the water, Qin Guang was sitting there like a gold knife. He held a pencil that was half sharpened in one hand and a glass in the other. He looked at the two people fiercely. You guys don't talk nonsense. My reputation doesn't matter. Think about it, if this kind of thing gets out, how can Teacher Zhou face others? Nothing happened to him, but his reputation was ruined for no reason. How much damage would that do to the girl? I say, you two are really too much. Am I such a shallow person? There must be a special reason why I came back so late today. I don't want to tell you, but it's definitely not what you're guessing. As Qin Guang lectured them, their crotches felt cold. They nodded again and again. After all, they were only wearing briefs and the summer night was very cold. Do you really think I'm such a narrow-minded person? The two people shook their heads like a rattle drum. No. Brother Guang, you have a big heart. You're very magnanimous. Lin Jingwei said. Bai Fan nodded fiercely. Little Lin, you're right. I'll give you 10 likes. Qin Guang sighed. You guys, I really can't stand to see your duplicity. What's our relationship? How can I be angry when we're just joking around and making fun of me? But I really can't involve other women. Whether it's Teacher Zhou or Sun Xiaoxuan, it's not good for them. As for Wenwen, to be honest, you guys don't understand her. If you're lucky enough to see what she looks like when she uses her tricks, I can guarantee that you won't dare to make fun of her for the rest of your lives. Seeing his serious face, Lin Bai and Sun Xiaoxuan were convinced. Alright, you guys go to bed. I'll sleep in a bit. Qin Guang waved his hand domineeringly. Then he picked up the cup and planned to drink some water before going to take a shower. Just as the cup reached his mouth, before the water even entered his mouth, his brain went numb and he suddenly felt a suction force. What? It's here? It's here. Thunder throwing Lu. So sudden. Without the slightest bit of precaution, without the slightest bit of apprehension, you just appeared in my world and brought me a pleasant surprise. Screw you. Damn. You came at this time. Don't make this kind of international joke. I'm acting cool right now. That's fine too. Maybe after this World and Cup, I'll become the strongest king of acting cool in history? That's fine too. That's not right. Isn't the proposition of acting cool too big? Seeing a Spirit Sky level World and Cup, I feel like it's not cool enough and can't handle it, right? Then what could it be? This time I have a bad feeling. I feel like I'm going to be screwed. With a strong sense of confusion, Qin Guang was once again pulled into the World and Cup. It was still a vast expanse of whiteness. I don't care about anything else. I'll call for help first. Lioli, Barlioli, where are you? Come out and receive the guest. After calling twice, there was no response. Qin Guang's heart thumped again. That's not right. I bullied her so badly last time. This time I'll probably beat her up until she's not even human anymore. Why don't I lower my stance a little and ease the relationship a little? Dear Emperor of the Azure, long time no see. I really miss you. Can you come out and chat with me? I'm your savior after all. I shoulder the mission of saving the great godly emperor. Can we talk nicely? After waiting for a long time, there was still no response. Chapter 141. The situation was already out of control and Qin Guang began to panic. Looking at the empty sea of clouds, Emperor of the Azure did not move at all. In Qin Guang's heart, there was a touch of sadness and pain. Poor Lioli, in the end she couldn't hold on until I saved her. He passed away just like that, passing away. This evil heavens, what kind of sin did they commit, to actually let such a beautiful and exposed girl die young? Until today I have never really seen any substantial exposure. It is really a regret in my life. Forget it, for the next heavenly holy grail, let me go alone. Finally, it was about time the real world in the cup began to summon. At this moment Lioli's voice suddenly echoed in the air. Busy. No time to reveal yourself. Save your divine power. Pray for your own good. Safe this time. My dearest Emperor, you finally gave me a definite message. Wonderful, wonderful. Just based on your last sentence I feel at ease. Although I don't know what is waiting for me, as long as it is safe, it is enough. Qin Guang was faintly looking forward to it. Seeing how Emperor of the Azure looked as if she was facing a great enemy, in order to save that little bit of divine power, she actually didn't even bother to reveal herself. She must be undergoing some kind of great upgrade, right? Just as he was letting his imagination run wild, the pulling force of the world in the cup suddenly became stronger, and with a whoosh he was pulled in. Coming out of the space-time tunnel, Qin Guang thought that he would hit the surface of the water, but in the end he hit hard on a wooden board that was as hard as iron. Groggily crawling up, Qin Guang only had one thought in his mind: I swear from now on, I will never drink Tai Guanyin again. Damn, this Tai Guanyin that had been soaked was really hard after it became bigger like a steel plate. Obviously, this time in the world in the cup he wouldn't get Liuli's long-distance guidance. Judging from her manner of speaking just now, there was no hope. But it didn't matter. She had already said that it would be safe and steady. Shaking his head, he regained his vision. Looking around, he took a good look at the surroundings of this world within the cup, and spat out a mouthful of blood. No matter how much I calculated, I couldn't predict it and I couldn't guard against it day and night. In the end, I was tricked. The environment he was in now was similar to the world in Dota 2 Cup. However, the environment looked much better and the scope of the world in the cup was much larger. The quality of the surrounding objects was no different from the real world. There was no mosaic at all. It was clear that after resting and recovering for the past few days, Liuli had indeed slowly controlled the aftereffects of the realm of transient sea. Perhaps this was the normal level of the heavenly spirit realm. It was about 200 meters in diameter, exactly the same as the real world, a real world in a cup. He had finally returned to normal. Come to think of it, although the repercussions of using the realm of transient sea was terrible, Qin Guang really missed that high-end experience that was no different from the real world. Look at what was given in the end. A small broken fish pond with only one computer? The electrical circuit was still at the level of mosaic. An 8-bit racing god training ground? That feeling was basically like when one was used to playing large-scale 3D games such as The Witcher 3, Raleigh 5 and other standalone games, and suddenly only had the feeling of holding a Tetris brick in one's hand. The past was unbearable. If it wasn't for those pencils floating on the surface of the water with unknown meanings, strange uses and murderous intent, so many that they were like stars in the sky, Qin Guang would have been happy. What the heck? It's not bad that the game's special effects have been restored to full value, but don't tell me you want me to play with this pool of pencils for the rest of my life? What did I want to do with the pencils just now? Poke people. Don't tell me you really want me to practice the ultimate godly skill of poking people with pencils? Since the little Li flying dagger, there was another godly weapon added to the list of weapons. Little chin pencils? Doctor, my liver hurts so much. I feel like I don't have enough blood to vomit. Oh my God, what do you want me to do? At this moment, the world in a cup changed again. In addition to the pencils, another godly weapon appeared in front of him. That's right, it was a pencil sharpener. As a genius with high IQ in the new era, Qin Guang immediately saw through the real intention of this world in a cup. Good, it's not for me to practice the little chin pencils. Then I was sharpening pencils just now, so what I want to practice is the ultimate skill of sharpening pencils. Qin Guang felt that his ability to complain might not be enough. The dignified 3,000 worlds, such a high and mighty peerless godly weapon, such an amazing cheat, one world to practice a godly skill, such a cool and heaven-defying special effect. After all this time, you want to train me into the strongest pencil sharpener in history? Or is this called the strongest pencil sharpener in history? Forgive the old man's heart for not being able to accept such a use effect. Well, no matter how strong the desire to complain in his heart was, no matter how painful it was, Qin Guang could only accept his fate. He expressionlessly grabbed the pencil sharpener in front of him, and then picked up a pencil from the water. He gritted his teeth and started sharpening. After a long time, the first pen was sharpened. The nib was round and the cut of the shaft was neat. It was a perfect conical shape. It was simply a work of art. An electronic voice sounded in the air. Qualified. Sharpening index increased by 198 points away from the next level. Qin Guang slapped his own face. You are really advanced and considerate. Sharpening index? Why don't you call it killing index? I kneel for you. The second pen, with a very unhappy mood, was sharpened in 2 or 3 moves. Of course, it was crooked and even the nib was cut off twice. Unqualified. Sharpening index decreased by 199 points away from the next level. You won and you can even decrease it. It was I who lost, so please accept my kneel. More than 2 hours later, the sharpening index increased by 1. The level was upgraded. 99 points away from the next level. I leveled up just like that. And then, there were no changes, no hints, no fancy sharpening techniques. Qin Guang used to think that Dota 2 was the most boring world in a cup. After all, although the racing god training ground was moving, it was actually quite interesting. But today he finally realized that he was wrong. Ridiculously wrong. There was no lower limit to the world in a cup. Don't try to challenge its limits because it would always give you a head-on blow when you weren't expecting it. This time I've lost in a complete mess. God, at least give me something different for the third level. This kind of setting will give me a psychological barrier. 3 days later, the sharpening index increased by 1. The level was upgraded. 99 points away from the next level. Still, there were no changes. I don't know how many levels there will be after this level. To be honest, I might not be able to survive this time. Anyway, I have a sharpener in my hand. Why don't I use this thing to slit my neck? After gesturing at his neck for a long time, Qin Guang couldn't bring himself to do it. He felt that he could still save himself. Half a month later, the sharpening index increased by 1. The level was upgraded. 99 points away from the next level. Thank God, at least it was a little different. Even if it was just a little change, it was enough to move him to tears. Chapter 142. In the end, he passed the horrible sharpening test. Don't ask him how many pencils he sharpened. He said he didn't want to answer and didn't want to remember. In short, if someone said that he was impatient, he would definitely slap that person's face. Idiot, you're facing a person who has practiced sharpening a pencil to an unprecedented level. He's the strongest person in history, and you dare to say that I don't have any growth potential? That's right, from now on, Master Qin Guang will undoubtedly be the best sharpener in the history of the earth and the entire universe. The best sharpener in history. Although it was useless. When he came out of the world in the cup, he didn't see Emperor of the Azure. The woman decided not to appear today. Light flashed and he appeared in the bedroom again. Lin Jingwei and Bai Nyangzi had just climbed to the bed and were about to go up the ladder. In the real world, only 10 seconds had passed. Qin Guang silently put down the cup and pulled out a tissue from the box next to him. He discreetly wiped his eyes. K, I actually wet my eyes looking at these two grandsons' briefs. This is so embarrassing. Qin Guang sat on the chair in a daze. After adjusting his mood for a long time, he slowly got up and walked to the bathroom to take a cold shower. This time the world in the cup had a big impact on him. He wouldn't be able to recover without sleeping. Standing under the faucet and feeling the cold water, Qin Guang sorted out his thoughts. To be honest, it wasn't entirely a bad thing to be cheated by the world in the cup. At least it made Qin Guang realize the fact that this thing really wanted to cheat people. It was completely unreasonable and had no bottom line. In the past, he naively thought that although this thing could appear at any time and instantly detect his thoughts to determine the final form of the world in the cup, it should at least be slightly more normal. So far, even the most worthless and meaningless Dota 2 hellish training had allowed him to reach the peak of the game. Even if his actual combat strength could only last for 1 or 2 matches, it was more than enough to show off in public. So much so that he let down his guard. What the world in the cup had done to him tonight was like a spray of cold water from a faucet on his head, instantly waking him up. I can't relax. If he touched this cup while taking a dump, he would really become the king of anal prolapse and die. Damn, a normal human wouldn't drink water while taking a dump, right? Am I not scaring myself? Oh, not bad. Qin Guang slapped his forehead. His brain had short-circuited. He had been afraid of something that had never happened for a long time. That's right, as long as I don't become the king of anal prolapse, is there anything on earth that I can't afford to offend? Even the setting of being the strongest pencil sharpener in history, I gritted my teeth and endured it. Was there any difficulty that I couldn't overcome? Happy. If it weren't for the fact that it was late at night, Qin Guang would have whistled twice to celebrate. After taking a shower and lying on the bed, he began to plan again. It had been 2 to 3 weeks and the world in the cup had only appeared 4 times. Damn, that was the 3,000 worlds. The old man pinched his fingers and calculated. According to the current speed to complete the 3,000 worlds test, damn, it would take at least 60 years. Now that I am 20 years old, doesn't that mean that when I am 80 years old I will still be doing missions bitterly? Damn, at that time, even if I become the master of the 3,000 worlds that Lily mentioned and have trillions of cute girls, I am already so old. Even if I have the heart to kill a thief, I will not be able to turn the situation around. Could it be that I can only enjoy the so-called deceptive spiritual intercourse? I don't want Plato, I just want to fight to my heart's content in close combat. Thinking of this, his heart felt really cold. It was so depressing that he couldn't even muster up his energy. Wait, I seem to have forgotten something. What I said just now was already a very good situation. According to the so-called naughty nature of the so-called divine weapon upgrade, the later it was, the longer the upgrade time would be. Could it be that my glorious responsibility as a savior will eventually be defeated by time? Will I die of old age before I can save the person? The dignified savior of the Emperor of the Azure in the endless divine realm failed the mission because he died of old age. Such a setting revealed a complete sense of despair. Unfortunately, Lily seemed to be in seclusion now. Otherwise, Qin Guang really wanted to call her out and have a good talk with her about the insights he had just thought of to see if she had prepared any backup plans. Thinking about it carefully, she couldn't be so deceptive that she couldn't even think of such a simple reason. Could it be that since I became a savior I was destined to live forever? Then wouldn't I have to be like the protagonists in some TV shows and movies, constantly watching my loved ones grow old and die one by one? Professor Dew from the stars? Wouldn't this plot be a bit too torturous? Nowadays this kind of sadomasochistic plot is not popular. In a daze, Qin Guang didn't have the ability to continue letting his imagination run wild. After all the torment today he was really exhausted. As he lay down he closed his eyes and fell into a deep sleep. After a long time in the middle of the night on the writing table under his bed, the heavenly grail was faintly emitting a milky white light. The crazy laughter of the Emperor of the Azure echoed in the grail like a ghost, but the volume was as soft as a mosquito. Even Qin Guang, who was on the upper bunk, couldn't hear it. Wow! I've succeeded. I've finally succeeded. I finally don't have to live like a prisoner on death row anymore. I can go online now. I've changed from a prisoner under house arrest to a female otaku who can't go out. This is a huge leap in quality. The naked Emperor of the Azure's portrait danced on the heavenly grail. If someone saw that the portrait on the grail could actually dance, they would definitely be scared out of their wits. Fortunately, Qin Guang wore the Hello Kitty jacket for her, so there was no risk of her being exposed. When this crazy woman finally settled down, the decorative painting on the wall of the grail suddenly froze. Shortly after, a white fiber as thin as hair slowly extended out from the finger of the decorative painting, extending along the side of the grail all the way down to the table. Following that, it crawled along the table all the way down to Qin Guang's computer mainframe and plunged into it. This wasn't the end. After waiting for a while, another white fiber extended out and followed the steel pipe that was one with the bed. Like a creeper, it quietly flipped over Qin Guang's head and pierced into his phone that was placed on the bedside table. After a brief flash of light, the two fibers gradually dimmed and disappeared. The Emperor of the Azure snapped her fingers in the Grail world. It's done. Shortly after she muttered to herself, it seems like it takes a lot of divine power to maintain the internet. My lustrous feather dress? Forget it, I don't care anymore. I can't hold it in anymore. Going online is important. There's nothing more important in this world than going online. No one knew what the Emperor of the Azure planned to do online. The only thing they could be sure of was that the data on Qin Guang's phone was definitely going to explode. Chapter 143. The next day Qin Guang did not wake up early. When he opened his eyes it was already past 10 in the morning. He was woken up by Nyangzi's shrill voice. These two grandsons were restless the moment they woke up. Nyangzi was lying next to Xianxia's head in the form of a golden-haired lion king, providing a gentle and caring roar to wake him up. However, Xianxia had been drunk all night and was in a good state. Nyangzi's roar could do nothing to him. Qin Guang opened his sleepy eyes and watched Nyangzi's various performances. He felt that this guy had ulterior motives. On the surface he seemed to be tormenting Xianxia, but he was secretly taking revenge on him for scaring him last night. If I didn't know you were narrow-minded, I would have been fooled by you. What are you howling for? Do you see my fist that's as big as a clay pot? Do you believe that I can turn you into a national treasure? Qin Guang roared in annoyance. Nyangzi turned around and chuckled. Oh, Master Guang is awake? Do you need me to buy you breakfast? Qin Guang thought for a moment and nodded. Sure, I'll go back to sleep. Bring me a bowl of porridge and 4 steamed buns. Lin Jingwei finished washing up and walked in from the door. He asked, one more than usual? Qin Guang spat in his heart. How could this guy be so observant? Could it be that the real gay guy in the dormitory was not Bai Nyangzi but this guy? I'm still growing. Eating more is useless. What do you guys know? I'm going to sleep for a while more. After saying that, Qin Guang fell down again. It was rare that he did not have any classes in the morning. It was the perfect time to laze in bed in the hot summer. Of course, it didn't matter if he had classes or not. The afternoon class was a big class for hundreds of people. Qin Guang also planned to skip it. Don't ask me why I'm so cool. The king of truancy has always been domineering. If I don't mention names, I'll just kneel at the teacher's door and beg for forgiveness. In the end, he didn't sleep well. It was rare for Queen Wenwen to call him personally, so he didn't dare to ignore it. Qin Guang, where have you been these days? I don't see you playing any games and you don't come to the library either. Are you trying to disappear with me? Queen Wenwen's voice sounded very unhappy. The consequences were very serious, which made Qin Guang vaguely remember the scene when this woman put down all the hooligans in less than 10 seconds. Although I can be considered half an expert now compared to this female Tyrannosaurus, Qin Guang felt that he could probably live for 30 seconds. Not to mention with second Uncle Wen's inner force. Although Qin Guang had never asked, he knew that Wenwen's skills were not as simple as they seemed on the surface. He quickly sat up straight and shook his head fiercely to clear his mind. Before he officially opened his mouth, Master Qin Guang first organized his thoughts so that he wouldn't spill something that he shouldn't say. You don't know? Yesterday our class received a group of foreign guests. They're very influential. They're professors and top students from MIT. Recently, our whole class has been working around the clock on this matter. Everyone is very tired and I haven't been idle either. I helped to prepare the thesis. I have to say the reception yesterday was not bad. The professor from MIT seemed to appreciate the thesis that our class wrote. Qin Guang chuckled. On the other end of the phone, Wenwen spat. You even helped to prepare the thesis? Aren't you more of a hindrance? Qin Guang wasn't convinced. Let me tell you. Don't look down on me. I'm the main force. The main force serving tea and water. Fine, you saw through me. The thesis is mainly done by Sun Xiaoxuan and the others. Us boys are just assistants. However, this is for the glory of the country and the school, so we definitely have to help. It didn't affect my revision for CET4. After all, we were receiving foreign guests. I studied my English along with the thesis. The best way to lie in this world was to use half-truths. Qin Guang understood the essence of this. Even if he was seen through in the future, he could still argue that Miss Wen had a problem with her comprehension. He didn't purposely hide it from her. Well, this way he could avoid getting beaten up. It was better to be safe than sorry. All right then. I was worried that I would disturb your studies. Since you've been reading recently, come out and relax with me today. It's a balance between work and rest. I'll give you 10 minutes. Hurry up and get dressed. I'll wait for you at the school gate. Let's go straight to the internet cafe. My hands are itchy. It turned out that when university's campus bell calling to express her condolences was fake. Her hands were really itchy. To be honest, Qin Guang's hands were a little itchy too. He immediately put on his clothes quickly. When he was halfway through putting on his clothes, the hungover Xianxia suddenly sat up straight on the bed like an alarm clock. Then he turned his face like a zombie and looked at Qin Guang. He said in a muffled voice, "Good morning, Brother Guang." Thanks for your hard work, Uncle Bear. After putting on his clothes, Lin Jingwei and Bai Nyangzi came back with a big bag each. It must be said that Lin Jingwei really had the gift of being a good family man. He even thoughtfully bought breakfast for Xianxia. It was just nice. However, when the third grandson heard that Qin Guang planned to run away with the buns and porridge, he became very curious about where he was going. Qin Guang had no choice but to stand them up again. He felt guilty, so he told them honestly that he was going to play a two-person game with Wenwen. The three of them did not agree. Even Xianxia, who had just sobered up, became energetic and insisted on going. After all, Qin Guang's amazing Dota skills had deeply impressed the three frogs in the well. They really wanted to know how scary it would be after Qin Guang and Wenwen, the two experts, played a two-person game in the internet cafe. It would definitely be a storm in the high levels and countless heroes would fight to bow down to them. Qin Guang could not dissuade them, so he could only pinch his nose and agree. Let me tell you guys, I won't bring you 3 noobs. After all, I and Wenwen are playing in the high levels with more than 5,000 points. Not long ago Qin Guang was humiliated by these 3 players with 4,000 points. Now he could use this arrogant tone to call them noobs. After enduring 3 months of hellish training, wasn't it for this moment? The 3 of them nodded their heads like chicks pecking at rice. Observing and learning is the main thing and getting close to the school bell is the secondary thing, Lin Jingwei said with a smile. Hey, is it elegant? Faster, thief. Stop it. I was just joking. Don't panic, the call didn't go through. Qin Guang pushed Lin Jingwei away. Alright, stop it. When university's school bell is going to flip out if we drag this out any longer. The 4 of them rushed to the school gate while munching on their buns. On the way, Qin Guang suddenly stopped in his tracks. He was glad that he was careful and almost messed things up. Right, there's one more thing. You guys must remember. The 3 of them saw him acting like he was facing a great enemy and thought he had a big secret. When I see Wenwen later, I can't let her know that my English has changed drastically and is no longer the same as before. Remember, it's very important. Why? Bai Nyangzi scratched his head in confusion. The other 2 were also confused. Xianxia asked, don't you like to show off? This is a very good opportunity. Qin Guang kicked him. The secret of the heavens must not be revealed. In any case, all of you better remember this. Whoever dares to leak the secret will be my enemy for life. Chapter 144. Although they did not understand his intentions, the 3 of them felt that he must be plotting something when they saw how serious he was. They all swore to the heavens that they would not betray their brother's trust. Otherwise they would die a horrible death. Alright, since you guys are so sincere, I'll show you what it means to be the strongest duo of hacks in history. Miss Wen said 10 minutes, so they did not dare to waste a second. When they rushed to the school gate, they checked their watches and arrived at the 10-minute mark. Qin Guang quickly explained, these 3 grandsons insisted on coming with us to broaden their horizons. They wanted to see how powerful we are when we're playing against each other. I couldn't even stop them, so we wasted some time. Xianxia stuck his head out from the side with a face full of admiration. When university's campus bell is still as beautiful as ever. Our school's iron gate is practically blossoming with flowers. Bai Nyangzi jumped excitedly. That's right. Needless to say, while Wenwen was waiting for them at the school gate, many people had already bumped their heads into the lampposts one after another. Today she was in high spirits. She wore a pair of tight waistcoats, a white shirt and a black waistcoat. Coupled with her refreshing long hair and her tall, slender and plump figure, she looked like a strong woman. Wenwen smiled at Qin Guang and waved her hand nonchalantly. Stop dawdling, let's go. The ignorant and fearless Lin Jingwei, Bai Nyangzi and Xianxia did not know that Qin Guang had already pushed them to the gates of hell. If when university's campus bell really ran out of patience, it would be the fault of these 3 burdens. The 5 of them plunged into the internet cafe. When they entered, some of the ignorant and pitiful youngsters looked up. The 5 of them entered in unison, and there was an outrageously beautiful girl in the middle. They all looked at them curiously. It was another team of 5. However, they actually had a girl with them and she was so pretty. I curse you guys to make the girl beg for death. Qin Guang and Wenwen were already used to these people's expressions, so they didn't think much of it. This was the first time that Lin Jingwei and the other 2 were tagging along, so they weren't used to it. After all, Qin Guang was a tragedy in the past. Wenwen's training with him was called weight-bearing training. Of course, she wouldn't let these 3 grandsons come to the internet cafe to watch him being tortured to death in the high levels. Now that he was different from before, he dared to bring the 3 of them out. These short-sighted fools, they must think of us as the babysitter clan. Bai Nyangzi pinched his throat and said unhappily. Lin Jingwei, on the other hand, was calm. He smiled coolly and said, these pitiful mortals don't understand that the true glory of babysitters is when Brother Guang is babysitter. Qin Guang sat in his booth and looked askance at these 3 pitiful fools. They didn't know how dangerous it was to tease when university's campus bell. They were dancing on the tip of a knife. Although the 3 grandsons had also turned on their computers, they didn't plan to sit down and fight. Instead they surrounded Qin Guang and Wenwen, planning to get close to the people's gods. The most painful wait was the time before the computers were turned on in the internet cafe. Qin Guang and Wenwen were bored to death and felt uncomfortable. Especially Qin Guang. He thought of the world in the sharpening cup last night and thought, this isn't right. Every time I learned a godly skill in the world in the cup, I would immediately use this godly skill to show off. Although the setting of being the best pencil sharpener in history was useless, it could be used to show off. If I don't show off, how can I live up to the miserable days and nights I spent with the sharpener? I can't let my hard work go to waste. By Xianxia, I have a task for you. Go to the internet cafe counter and find me a pencil sharpener and a pencil sharpener. Although Bai Xianxia didn't know what he was going to do, seeing that he was about to show off his godly skill in Dota, Bai Xianxia went to run the errand. The internet cafe counter was out of stock. Fortunately, there was a snack shop downstairs. When Bai Xianxia ran back, Qin Guang and Wenwen were already complaining about the game's matchmaking system. The matchmaking system was very friendly and considerate. From time to time it would give a big surprise. The matchmaking time ranged from 1 minute to half an hour. Before the successful matchmaking interface popped up, you would never know when he would give you a surprise or a tragedy. Qin Guang thought that the game operator must be considerate of the majority of players. Long-term high-intensity games were not good for the physical and mental health. They would force players to rest for 10 to 20 minutes from time to time to help the majority of players have appropriate time to rest during the intense game. They could empty their minds and think about life. Only the heavens knew when he would be matched, so he had to kill some time first. Taking the pencil and knife, Qin Guang mysteriously smiled and said, "Lads, let me show you guys a divine technique." Everyone saw his mysterious look and then looked at the thing in his hand. Even Goddess Wenwen had a puzzled expression on her face. Taking a deep breath, Qin Guang said loudly, "Hey, watch carefully." Immediately, his eyes emitted a dazzling cold light. His aura instantly rose and shot into the sky. Not bad. After all, he was a pencil sharpening grandmaster. Even if he was not a grandmaster, he was still a grandmaster. A grandmaster of a generation had his own bearing. Qin Guang's eyes widened in anger. Holding the knife in his right hand, he slashed down fiercely. Receive the shock of my world-shocking skill. In a flash, the moment his pencil sharpener touched the tip of the pencil, countless sawdust flew like snow and scattered all over the ground. When the smoke and dust dissipated, only a perfectly round nib was left. It was fresh out of the oven and looked easy to write. It was very awesome and could definitely draw a perfect arc on the paper. This was a work of art that was as perfect as Venus. Qin Guang used less than 3 seconds to finish it. There was a calm and elegant smile on his face. It was hot and cool. Frogs at the bottom of a well, are you scared by my scary style? I hope you can face the bleak and miserable life in the future correctly. How about it? I'm asking you, am I handsome? Am I cool? Do you want to learn? *CK. This was Wenwen's response. It's useless. Lin Jingwei commented. Brother Guang, you must have practiced this for 17 to 18 years, right? Amazing. But I don't want to learn. As expected of Xianxia. Is it the police, uncle? Someone is acting cool here. It's so glaring, the situation is out of control. Bai Xianxia actually made the call. After a while, when the interface of the successful match popped up, everyone's expression immediately changed, and they instantly became incomparably serious. A thick murderous aura emanated from Qin Guang and Wenwen. It shot up into the sky and almost smashed a hole in the internet cafe's ceiling. This super strong duo of black players would finally reappear in the world. The Chinese Dota world was going to be turbulent again. No one noticed that in the heavenly holy grail that Qin Guang had placed in front of the computer monitor, Emperor of the Azure's fingers and eyes were glowing with a terrifying light. The black Batman mug cover, coupled with the Hello Kitty mug cover inside, was a double layer of protection. It wouldn't leak and wouldn't be exposed. She could move it however she wanted. What? Someone said that he couldn't change the mug cover before? Stop joking. Master Guang was so smart. Why did he have to take off the Hello Kitty? He could use 1 mug for 2 mugs. He had no choice. That was how he could be so willful when he was rich. Chapter 145. About 40 minutes passed. He looked at the dazzling words, Heavenly Brilliance's Victory, on the screen. Qin Guang's hand that was holding the mouse froze. He had a blank look on his face. He did not understand what had happened at all. That was because he was on Yi Jie's side, the losing side. Wenwen's face was also blank. She had played this game for many years, but had never encountered such a strange game. From start to finish she did not feel anything out of the ordinary. Wenwen, who was in charge of the mid lane, played the black bird. Her performance was stable. She suppressed in the early stages, fought in the middle and carried in the late stages. She was like a stabilizing force. Qin Guang, who was in the center position, chose the Phantom Assassin, a hero with explosive power. In the early stages, with the cooperation of his teammates, he completely destroyed the opponent's disadvantageous path. In the middle stages he relied on his godlike skills and awareness to kill the opponent, escape from death, or counterattack in a desperate situation. We have a huge advantage this round. We have a huge advantage this round. We have a huge advantage this round. We will definitely win this round. Watch and fight. But in the end, the strongest pair of blackbirds in history lost this round. They actually lost. The people who lost were baffled and confused. The reason was that in the last round of the team battle, the opponent was sleepwalking from start to finish. The dark sage, who did not contribute as much as the soldiers of heavenly brilliance, suddenly stood up and blocked in front of Qin Guang's Phantom Assassin. As a high-damage output late game, Qin Guang decisively flashed forward and prepared to send him on his way. Then the problem was, I attacked 18 times in a row and none of them were critical hits. What does this mean? This guy was so tough that he was unreasonable. He was as disgusting and annoying as a dogskin plaster. Even when all of his teammates were lying on the ground, Qin Guang still could not kill the dark sage who was stronger than a cockroach. In the end, the opponent counterattacked and took away the base. Throwing away the mouse, Qin Guang turned to look at the people behind him and asked, "Did I play perfectly this round?" The three nodded. "Perfect. Don't you think my mechanics are cool? So cool that I can fly. Did I make any mistakes?" "No." "Then why do you think that's the case? Why did he lose?" Xianxia analyzed, Maybe it's because we didn't wash our faces before we left, so your face is too black?" Qin Guang covered his face, feeling an indescribable pain in the ass. He had thought that he could easily close his eyes and kill everyone, but he didn't expect that he would have such a bad start and get hit in the knee by an arrow. "Director, this is a little different from the script I imagined. I want to stop acting." The other side must have used an anti-crit cheat. The opponent was a cheater. Wenwen, on the other hand, twisted her neck, rubbed her fingers and gritted her teeth. "This lady doesn't believe this today. Are you okay?" Of course she still remembered Qin Guang's nausea. Qin Guang carefully thought about his current condition. Although he felt a little uncomfortable, he could still bear it. He nodded and said, "All right, one more." Half an hour later, when their base once again fell under the enemy's siege, Qin Guang exploded. Boom. Unable to care about anything else, Qin Guang threw down the mouse and rushed to the internet cafe's toilet. The other four were already used to his behavior, but they couldn't understand the huge victory of Nightmare on the computer monitor. In this game, Qin Guang and Wenwen were on the Sky Brilliant side. The development of the plot was almost the same as the previous game. They had all kinds of advantages in the early stages, and with Wenwen's nearly 8,000 points, Qin Guang's strength as the strongest player in history, and the 5,000 groups, it was impossible for them to meet an opponent that was too difficult to deal with. But in the end, there was still such a person who fiercely stood up and pulled the unstoppable Qin Guang to the ground, his mouth full of mud. Wenwen frowned as she looked at that slightly familiar ID. Then she returned to the game interface and looked at the game record of the previous game. She discovered an exceptionally surprising fact. In 2 consecutive games, the person who had successfully suppressed Qin Guang's performance was actually the same person. It was an unknown player with the ID Jiangliua. Lin Jingwei and the other 2 also saw that something was amiss. Xianxia deftly searched for this person's battle record on his computer, and his face was even more bewildered. Strange, this person has no previous match record. It's a completely new ID that was directly matched with Wen University's Campus Bell and Brother Guang, and in 2 consecutive games. There's no reason for that. Could it be that the server is targeting you? Lin Jingwei also expressed his bewilderment. Even if it's really the almighty Smurf, there's no reason for this kind of newly registered ID to be matched with your high-level group. There's something fishy going on. Wenwen waved her hand indifferently. Forget it. Whether it's the server targeting us or Jiangliua targeting me and Qinguang, it doesn't matter. In any case, playing games is to relax. Although winning or losing is important, losing isn't a big deal. It's not like we haven't lost before. Qinguang had thrown up in the toilet, and by the time he had run over, he had already put on a pair of sunglasses. After 2 consecutive games, the after effects had flared up again. Walking over to the computer, he pulled Wenwen to run away. We can't play anymore, we can't play anymore. Let's call a truce for today and fight another day. Wenwen wasn't in a hurry to get up. Instead, she forced him to stare at the monitor and asked, "Have you seen this ID before, Jiangliua? He's the one who defeated you in these 2 games." Qinguang clenched his teeth and stared at the ID, then went to Bainyangzi's computer to look at this person's battle record. He shook his head repeatedly. "I've never seen him before. I don't know where he came from." Although he looked calm on the surface, in fact, no one could understand the stormy waves in his heart. He wasn't blowing his own trumpet. After going through hellish training, he claimed to be the world's number 2, but no one really claimed to be the world's number 1. So here was the problem. This time he had indeed completely and utterly lost to the same person. Twice. This was simply a human tragedy. Although the other side had only fought him head-on in the later stages of the game and had always looked like he was at a disadvantage, that person had, in the end, used the position of a soy sauce to restrain him, the main carry. Clearly he had the advantage, beating the other side until he covered his head and scurried away like a rat, but he just couldn't send him back to the spring. Instead, he had been disrupted so much that he couldn't attack, which ultimately led to his team's defeat and the loss of the game. What exactly went wrong? Why do I feel that this person called Jiangliua has completely seen through my every move? My operation can be said to be at the peak of perfection, but that Jiangliua is equally meticulous and even better than me. Qinguang simply couldn't understand. This opponent was ridiculously strong, simply exceeding the limits of human beings. If it was just one failure, it could still be attributed to chance, but 2 failures in a row was enough to explain the problem. The others hadn't reached Qinguang's realm, so they couldn't see clearly what was strange about it. They just thought that this was an ordinary losing streak. After all, no matter how strong a professional player was, it was impossible to dominate a random game forever, and losing streaks were even more common. But Qinguang clearly knew that things weren't so simple. There was something fishy going on here. Chapter 146. Forcing himself to endure the discomfort, Qinguang opened his game account and sent a friend request to Jiangliua. Regardless of whether the other party accepted it or not, he immediately got offline and ran away. Taking a second look at the game interface, he vomited stomach acid all over the ground. Qinguang and Wenwen were leaving, and Bainyangzi and the other 2 were no longer in the mood to stay. Today's feng shui was unfavorable, so it was better to stay at home instead of playing games. Qinguang's mind was full of Jiangliua's matter, which had dealt him a huge blow. He had always believed that the ability that he had trained in the world within a cup would be flawless and invulnerable. He would definitely be the strongest in history. But in the end, while playing Dota today, he had been cured. It seemed like a trivial matter, but it had made him start to doubt his entire life. Could it be that in addition to me, the controller of the cheat, there is another non-human being in this world who receives the same treatment as me? Faster see. I refuse to accept this. Even if there really is such a person, how senseless must you be to come to the game to beat me up? You won a game against me and I won't lose a single cent. At that moment, Qinguang had no idea that in the realm and cup of the heavenly Holy Grail, a very inelegantly dressed goddess empress was going crazy with joy. Oh my, this small low-end plane can actually give this empress such a big surprise? This is really unexpected. These mortals are so weak that even this empress doesn't want to ridicule them, but their imagination is really amazing. Is this the wisdom of ants? Emperor of the Azure was rocking back and forth with laughter, but no one paid attention to her. After all, before Qinguang had entered this huge realm and cup, she had been the only one there. If Qinguang had seen this scene, he would definitely have regarded her as a lunatic. To borrow a saying that people on Earth often say, city people really know how to play. The longer he stayed by Qinguang's side, the more he successfully connected to the internet last night. Finally, he did not have to waste time and energy and waste a large amount of divine power to probe and sense the outside world. Liu understood the methods of the modern world. From the high and mighty god power perception, it became a more low-key, luxurious, meaningful, practical, and efficient way of consuming data. Surfing the internet. This unprecedented retreat allowed her to be like a fish in water. It was like a dragon returning to the sea, a bird flying freely in the sky. From last night until now, Emperor of the Azure had lost count of how many jokes she had read on the internet and how many popular new languages she had learned. Things like, exploding manga, unexpectedly, reporting to boss, 100,000 cold jokes, hip-hop quartet, the complete collection of Stephen King's movies. Well, she hadn't had time to watch these yet, but she had written them down and planned to read them later. But this still wasn't what made her happiest. Today, when she saw Qin Guang and Wenwen playing games, she couldn't help sneaking into the internet and giving it a try. She created an ID called Jiang Lu Hua, which had the word Lu in it, and put herself in front of Qin Guang to have fun twice in a row. She was astonished. She simply admired the Earthling's entertainment spirit from the bottom of her heart. In her long career as a divine emperor, she had seen all kinds of storms and tried all kinds of strange ways of playing. But in the endless realm of the gods, billions of gods pursued greater power. Their overly powerful selves often put the cart before the horse when developing entertainment methods. The so-called leisure, to put it bluntly, was still cultivation. No matter how powerful they were, they couldn't focus on the right things. It wasn't like Earth, where there was a group of people who exhausted their wisdom and worked together just to make a relaxing, enjoyable, and addictive game. The two were simply not on the same level. The moment Liu started playing, she was completely addicted to the game. At the same time, she even tortured old master Qin Guang. Why was it so fun? If I wasn't a dignified divine emperor, I would have knelt down in front of the person who made this game. Please accept my 10-billion-year-old good kneeling. It's a pity that Qin Guang's cell phone network is too unstable, so it's really inconvenient to connect to the game. Forget it, I'll play it when he's asleep at night. Anyway, I have nothing to do and watching a video on the 4G network isn't a problem, so I'll watch it first. Unexpectedly, right? Master Guang's cell phone data was on the latest high-speed train heading north, gradually getting farther and farther away. Sadly, Liu was annoyed and even blocked the text messages from 10086, who always sent her text messages to disturb her watching movies. If Qin Guang knew that he wasn't abused by another non-human with a cheat, but by his own cheat, he would probably vomit a few more liters of blood. Oh, he would probably vomit a few more liters of blood when he had to pay the phone bill next month. After all, when he first entered university, he was still a middle-aged rich second-generation heir. In order to show his status, he had specially applied for a postpaid phone card, so it wouldn't be suspended because of arrears. This time he was probably going to suffer a heavy loss. On the other hand, as soon as Qin Guang and the other four walked out of the internet cafe with a heavy heart, they ran into a punching bag. Strictly speaking, the dozen or so young men with stud earrings and weird hairstyles standing in front of the five of them were Wenwen's punching bags. Perhaps she was a little unhappy because she had been beaten twice in a row today, so she was in a rare state of absent-mindedness. When she walked out of the internet cafe, she accidentally stepped on the foot of the young man who was about to enter the door. This group of hot-tempered young men who were active in the vicinity of Wenxing town were instantly ignited. When they saw Wenwen's overly beautiful appearance, they didn't care even if there were 4 boys by her side. After all, they had a lot of family. The one who had his foot stepped on had the gall to extend his hand towards Wenwen's face, planning to touch her face first. He said, "Little girl, you stepped on your brother's foot and you want to leave without saying anything?" Seeing this, Qin Guang reacted the fastest. He quickly retreated and turned his face away at the same time. This scene was so familiar. The only difference was that last time it was at night, and this time it was in broad daylight. As for the 3 grandsons of Lin Jingwei, they didn't need to care about those details. They were just props in the background. Xianxia, who didn't know the severity of the situation, was the first to explode. He roared, "Damn it! Get lost. I'll slap you." Needless to say, Xianxia's movement, coupled with his ferocious tiger-like aura, was quite intimidating. However, Wenwen didn't make a sound. She raised her hand at lightning speed and blocked the ignorant young man's palm. Then she tightened her fingernails and flicked her finger. The young man covered his hand and wailed as he shrank to the side. About 30 seconds later, Qin Guang finally turned his face around. It was truly a tragic sight. Zai, you people are really too much. Why did you have to come and be the punching bag when university's campus belle is in a bad mood? Your courage and generosity will be engraved in the annals of history. Warriors. Lin Bai and Xiong stood in front of the internet cafe in a daze. Their faces were full of shock. Qin Guang patted their shoulders heavily and sighed. Brothers, you all know what kind of life I've been living for the past 3 years, right? Chapter 147. The three of them nodded their heads like chicks pecking at rice. I finally understand. Recalling how they dared to tease when university's campus belle, the three grandsons broke out in a cold sweat. Oh my god, there were more than 10 people. In 30 seconds her movements were so fast that they couldn't be seen clearly. They could only see them flying out one after another and landing on the ground. No one knew where they were injured, but no one could get up. To be honest, Xiong, luckily I held you back just now. If you tried to help and got hurt by accident, hee. Didn't I have internal bleeding at the start of my first year? I never told you what happened, but it's not too late to tell you now. I was just hit by her and accidentally punched. It was just one punch. The more Qin Guang spoke, the more terrifying it became. The three of them looked at Wenwen with a strange expression. It was like a rabbit looking at a female tyrannosaurus. When they looked at Qin Guang again, it was as if they were looking at a martyr walking on the road to hell. Lin Bai and Xiong could not help but recall what Qin Guang said last night. No wonder he said that after they saw Wenwen's methods, they would never dare to make fun of Wenwen again in this life. Not to mention this life, even if there was a next life, I wouldn't dare. I wouldn't dare. I wouldn't dare. Wenwen walked back while clapping her hands. She smiled at the three of them. Why are you looking at me like that? Didn't Qin Guang tell you about me? Qin Guang rolled his eyes. Am I not trying to protect your ladylike image of when university's campus belle? The three of them shook their heads violently. Lin Jingwei, who was standing by the door, almost hit his nose on the door frame. Glancing at the three of them in disdain, Wenwen continued, That's why Qin Guang isn't the same as you guys. Back then when he first met me I was here beating up a bunch of people, but he wasn't afraid of me. He brought it up again. Qin Guang felt his stomach ache. He thought to himself, Missy, I was stunned by your punch and almost lost consciousness. I wanted to be afraid, but I didn't have the energy to be. This was probably fate. Hence, after Qin Guang and Wenwen became best friends, Lin Baixiong and the other two never had the same treatment. The three of them were instantly filled with admiration for Qin Guang. Brother Guang was indeed Brother Guang. There was only one Brother Guang in this world. Bai Nyangzi rolled his eyes. How can we compare to Brother Guang? Right, let's go. Wenwen wiped the blood on the back of her hand on Qin Guang's shirt. Then she waved her hand and left. The five of them ran away in a flash, leaving behind a bunch of wailing punks. A true warrior never looked back to see an explosion. After returning to school, Lin Baixiong and the other two found an excuse to run away. Qin Guang was dragged to the library by Wenwen. There was a balance between work and rest. After playing games he had to pick up his studies later. The two of them sat in the library. Qin Guang stared at the papers in front of him, but he couldn't help but recall the 2 consecutive rounds. Under normal circumstances, although Wenwen was tough, she wasn't so hot-tempered. That young man had only reached out to take advantage of her, but he hadn't. At most she had taught the leader of the punks a lesson and subdued the others. Today she had been so ruthless, which was clearly abnormal. She was indeed venting something. Qin Guang speculated that it was very likely that his godly performance had made her look forward to the next round. She had planned to win 2 rounds quickly, but in the end she had lost. She had been unhappy and those people had been out of luck. Therefore she had taken all the human sandbags that had been delivered to her doorstep. Alas, in order to save the world, in order to prevent as many innocent people as possible from being harmed, I can't lose. Qin Guang gritted his teeth and steeled his heart. He definitely couldn't let Jiangliua get away with it and ride on his head. Good. Since you've chosen to have a showdown with me in Dota, as the master of this generation's golden finger, as the savior of Emperor of the Azure, I accept your challenge. I'll kill Jiangliua. If I have time I'll practice well. But the prerequisite is that if I have time, After all, I'm also carrying a family on my shoulders. Time is very precious. At this time, Wenwen also propped her chin up with her hand. She wasn't staring at Qin Guang, but was looking outside through the library's glass wall with a dull expression. Her mind was wandering and no one knew what she was thinking. Qin Guang still didn't have any clues about his family's affairs. The clues had been completely cut off and he didn't know what had gone wrong. Wenwen couldn't understand why, with second uncle's ability, he hadn't been able to investigate further. She really didn't believe that there was any power in this world that could even deceive second uncle's eyes and ears. Recently, some people in the family seemed to have started to get restless, and there seemed to be some undercurrents surging inside and outside the family. Being able to smoothly finish this university seemed to be the last of her contented days. Thinking about these things gave her a headache. She really couldn't accept it. Fortunately, she had beaten up a lot of people today, so she was in a much better mood. When the car comes to the mountain, there will be a road, and when the boat comes to the bridgehead, there will naturally be a way. If Qin Guang knew that a tomboy like me would also have troubles, he would definitely laugh his teeth off, wouldn't he? As she thought about it, Wenwen turned her head again and faced Qin Guang, who was staring blankly at her. For a moment she smiled. 10 miles of spring breeze didn't care, but a smile could charm 100 people. Caught off guard by her smile, Qin Guang blushed and turned his head away. His heart was pounding and there was only one thought in his mind. It was terrifying. How could I let my imagination run wild because of this tomboy's smile? And this was after witnessing her valiance just now? Is there something wrong with my sexual orientation? What are you doing? Why are you scaring me? Qin Guang fiercely hammered his chest twice. Even the boys and girls at the desk next to him gave him a strange look, but he managed to calm his heartbeat. Wenwen spat in her heart. Your words don't sound pleasant. I smiled at you and you actually said I was scaring you. Her cunning mind suddenly jumped out again. You said I was scaring you, right? Then I'll give you some big news. Right, I see that you've been studying very hard recently and your accuracy rate is almost 50%. Otherwise what? Qin Guang suddenly felt alarmed. This man was going to make a big move. Otherwise, I'll give you a little reward in advance. Then I'll stimulate your motivation. Sure enough. To be honest, since he recognized Lioli as his master, the old man hadn't drawn a map for a few days. You're making me lose my essence. No, now is the crucial moment for the old man to practice the 10 lands 8 wastelands celestial demon transformation. I can't allow the vital young essence to be wasted for nothing. I must stabilize my heart. Is what you said true? My mouth. I can't control it anymore. Wenwen immediately laughed like a flower. She couldn't care less about the other boys who were already peeking in this direction. She clutched her stomach with one hand and stuck out a slender finger with the other, heavily poking Qin Guang's forehead. He almost flipped over. Dream on. Was it true? With your current appearance you still have to kneel. The two of them were teasing each other here, but they didn't notice that a pair of eyes filled with hatred and jealousy was staring at Qin Guang from the gap of the stairs on the upper floor of the library. Zheng He's knuckles turned white. He was so jealous that he almost went crazy. On what basis? What virtue and ability do you, Qin Guang, on what basis? Chapter 148. Time flew and in the blink of an eye, it was the weekend again. Well, it had only been a day. Waking up early in the morning, Qin Guang drove the Rena that he had escaped death to the city. When the master of the auto repair shop handed the repaired car to him, he said to him with tears in his eyes, "Little Qin, don't ruin the car like this. I feel pain for it just by looking at it." Qin Guang's face was red. He gritted his teeth and explained to the master, "It's not what you think. The people sent by Zhu Xian left their hometown at about 6 o'clock in the morning. It was estimated that they would be sent to the long-distance bus station at 6 Apricot Tower by 9 o'clock. Qin Guang was going to pick up his parents and then go to Wujing City Hospital. After all, the people sent by Zhu Xian to the provincial capital had other things to do. It was already very troublesome for them to hitch a ride to 6 Apricot Tower. When he saw his parents, they were surrounded by a lot of old men and women who were recommending some healthcare products to them. Before Qin Guang could walk to his seat and speak, he saw his father, Qin Guoli, suddenly take out a large bottle of Puss Corporation's special medicine from his backpack and shouted, "Pure American imported medicine. Specializes in treating rheumatoid arthritis. lumbar disc herniation, frequent urination, sore legs. Come take a look. You won't be able to find such a shop. The English. English. Do you know him? Pure imported. If it's fake, I'll pay you 10 times the price. The group of old masters and aunties at the side rolled their eyes and turned around to leave. Damn it, a fellow traveler from another city had rushed into the temple of the Dragon King. Qin Guang immediately took a step back and planned to greet his parents after a while. But there was nothing he could do about it. Although he managed to scare away his peer, the gazes of the passers-by were too lethal. He covered his face. My family is unfortunate. My teasing is definitely inherited from my father. Son. Here. Damn Dad, you're so old but your eyes are still so good. I've already covered my face, yet you can still pick me out from the crowd. Is it because my hairstyle is too cool and eye-catching? When the two elders got into the car, Qin Guang vaguely heard others say that this family of swindlers had made a fortune and could even afford a car. The moral degeneration of the world was getting worse. On the road, Qin Guoli wanted to interrogate Qin Guang several times about how he earned the 180,000 yuan, but when he looked at his wife Feng Rong who was breathing heavily, he didn't open his mouth in the end. He was afraid of scaring Feng Rong, so he had given Feng Rong an excuse, saying that he had contacted an old comrade-in-arms, who knew that his family was in trouble, and had lent him 180,000 yuan. At that time Feng Rong was extremely touched. She knew that her family was in such a difficult situation and was like a bottomless pit, but he was still willing to lend her 180,000 yuan. No matter what, she wanted to personally express her gratitude. Later, Qin Guoli had no choice but to lie again and again, saying that he was now a big boss and had gone overseas on a business trip. He wouldn't be back for 2 to 3 months and he couldn't get through to the domestic phone either. Only then did he reluctantly give up. Qin Guang stared at the red light at the intersection carefully and finally asked. It wasn't that he had forgotten, but from the moment he picked up the two of them, he could tell that his mother's condition wasn't right. He didn't dare to ask, but now he couldn't hold it in anymore. Dad, Mom hasn't stopped her dialysis recently, right? Qin Guang asked. Before Qin Guoli could speak, Feng Rong spoke first. She waved her hand casually. Of course not. Your dad works so hard to earn money. Some time ago he had a comrade-in-arms who was a boss who lent us 180,000 yuan. Our family isn't short of money now, but we have to thank him later. Oh right, old Qin, does your comrade-in-arms have a daughter? Is she close to Xiao Guang's age? All right. Haven't you earned enough? Isn't it enough to earn 180,000 yuan from him? You want to earn his daughter too? Qin Guoli had to continue making up lies. It was tiring. Feng Rong glared at him. What are you saying? Our Xiao Guang is a top student from a top university. His future is limitless. Our family might be a little poor now, but Xiao Guang is very capable. It's not a loss to have an in-law, right? Isn't this very popular among comrade-in-arms? Mom, forget it. What era are we in now? That's not popular anymore. We youngsters all want to be free to love. Who would still do this? Of course, Qin Guang knew that there was no such thing as a boss comrade-in-arms. A comrade-in-arms who could help the village had already raised 100 to 200,000 yuan for his dad. Wasn't the boss comrade-in-arms that his mom was talking about him? It was really hard on his dad. He had to keep up such a big lie until now. If it was someone with a slower brain, he would have been exposed long ago. However, seeing that his mom could still ramble on. Although her complexion didn't look good, her body seemed to be in good condition. After all, the Puss Corporation's special medicine had never been stopped. Qin Guang's mood suddenly relaxed. Since Qin Guang had said so, Feng Rong didn't pester him about the comrade-in-arms anymore. She turned her head from the back seat and looked up and down at Qin Guang with a pained expression. It must have been hard on Xiao Guang these days. You have to go to school and drive at the same time. You must be tired, right? Sigh, Mom's illness can't be cured. Looking at you skinny makes me feel terrible. If it wasn't for the fact that you haven't graduated from university and haven't married yet to give birth to a grandchild for me, I would have given up long ago. Qin Guang's mood was a little complicated. My current body can also be called skinny. When I take off my outer clothes and stand on the side of the road, I look like a top male model. When the students from Dachuan Academy of Fine Arts pass by, they have to take out their drawing boards to draw me a portrait of David. However, when he heard the second half of his mom's words, his heart felt terrible. The energy of this roasting and the feeling of discomfort mixed together. The feeling was too complicated. Qin Guang helped Qin Guoli out of the predicament. On the other side, Qin Guoli saw that Qin Guang's expression was a little gloomy after listening to his mom's words. He pulled his wife's shoulder. "What nonsense are you talking about? If you're sick, you have to treat it. We have 2 grown men in our family, can't we handle it? Xiao Guang is concentrating on driving. Don't talk nonsense with him and disturb his driving. If he gets a traffic ticket, he will have to deduct points and pay a fine." Sure enough, Feng Rong was frightened. She didn't say any more nonsense, but there was a dull pain in her stomach, but she endured it and slowly sat back down. 2 drops of cold sweat appeared on the tip of her nose, but she didn't make a sound. Qin Guoli held her hand from the side and gave her an encouraging look. He knew that she did not want to make Qin Guang uncomfortable. There was a little traffic jam today. When the group of them arrived at the hospital, it was almost noon. It was the time when the doctors got off work. Qin Guang let his parents have lunch at the small shop at the entrance of the hospital while he rushed in with an empty stomach. His dad would bring his lunch over later. Although his mother's attending physician, Dr. Ma, was not very famous and was not a famous expert, because he was serious and responsible, there had always been a lot of patients. Even if the old patients came, unless it was an emergency, they would usually have to wait in line. Just as they stood in the queue, Qin Guang saw someone unexpected. It was his cheap sister Wu Tong. This woman walked out of the doctor's office with a troubled look. Chapter 149. After taking 2 steps, Wu Tong raised her head and saw Qin Guang standing in the crowd, staring at her. She opened her mouth wide and stared blankly for a moment before regaining her composure. Her expression became even more complicated. After thinking for a while, she still walked towards Qin Guang. Qin Guang was puzzled. What's wrong with this woman today? She's different from my impression of a tough and domineering police officer. Wu Tong walked in front of Qin Guang and asked, "What are you doing here?" Qin Guang gestured to the long queue in front of him. "I'm accompanying my mom to the hospital to see a doctor. I'm waiting to hand in the registration form. What about you?" Wu Tong blushed, but she quickly calmed down and waved her hand casually. "I'm here to chat with a friend. What's wrong with your mom?" Qin Guang was still in a daze. "Mom? Your mom? Really?" Wu Tong blushed even more. Qin Guang's expression darkened. He hesitated for a moment and said, "It's nothing serious. She's old and has some minor problems. But my dad made a fuss and insisted that she come to Wujing City Hospital." Wu Tong believed his words and said, "You brat. Old people can't be taken lightly even if they don't have minor illnesses. What do you mean your dad made a fuss? All right, if there's nothing else, I'll leave first. I still have to patrol." Waving goodbye to Qin Guang, Wu Tong strode away with her long legs, dragging away the gazes of many people nearby. When she turned around a corner, she suddenly leaned her back against the wall. Her little heart was thumping wildly. She thought in her heart, "I must have seen a ghost. Why is this brat's vengeful spirit still lingering? Wherever I go, I run into him. I'll be damned if I believe you." Thinking of what Tang Ying had said to her a few minutes ago, Wu Tong's heart couldn't calm down. "You, what's wrong with you?" "Well, if you insist that you're sick, then it's lovesickness." "What nonsense are you talking about? I don't want that kind of person. Although I don't know who has charmed a little demon like you. However, you, Wu Tong, are already a girl in your 20s. If it was in ancient times, a girl of your age would have already arranged a marriage for her son. Just follow your heart. This day will come sooner or later anyway." Conscience my ass. I'm telling you, this isn't normal. There was no reason for her to suddenly fall in love with someone she didn't even know before. This is simply unimaginable. There's nothing strange about it. We've watched so many romantic movies together. Don't you believe that love at first sight exists in this world? What love at first sight? Even if there was a clock, it wouldn't be like that. Besides, you're not young anymore. Why haven't you been seduced by some wild man? I'm not like a slacker like you. I'm a top student of my generation, the youngest PhD student in the history of Moorlands Medical College. I have long since made up my mind to devote my glorious and great life to the boundless cause of medicine. Get lost. Don't disturb me here. There are still 180 patients waiting for me. This bestie of hers is not reliable at all. She's the youngest PhD student in the history of Moorlands Medical College. You're not even as good as that dog skin plaster I caught on the street a few days ago. I anxiously ran over to you, hoping that you, a great doctor who had returned from abroad, could diagnose me and see if there was something wrong with me mentally or physically, but you only teased me. How infuriating. She didn't expect to bump into the ignorant Qin Guang the moment she walked out of Tang Ying's office in a huff. He almost jumped in fright. Fortunately, as a police officer, Wu Tong had good mental fortitude. She calmed herself down immediately. Although she also felt that Qin Guang's reply was a little unusual, she was even more flustered. She didn't have the guts to turn around and ask. She took a few deep breaths and hurried downstairs. Qin Guang was also full of doubts. However, he was worried about his mother's condition, so he didn't think too much about Wu Tong. After his parents came upstairs, Qin Guang ate lunch and waited with them. About 2 hours later they were finally called. "Miss Feng, please take a seat." Dr. Ma was indeed a responsible person. He didn't even look at the consultation card before calling out Feng Rong's surname. That wasn't all. He turned around and greeted Qin Guoli. "Mr. Qin, you should have come for a checkup last week. Why did you only come this week?" Qin Guoli scratched his head embarrassedly. "I was delayed by some trivial matters last week. I'm really sorry." Dr. Ma put on a straight face. "What's there to be embarrassed about? The patient is your family member. You should be embarrassed about yourself. Remember, you can't delay this in the future. The patient's health is more important." Qin Guoli nodded repeatedly. Dr. Ma consulted Qin Guoli about Feng Rong's condition for a long time. In the end, he wrote a bunch of forms and asked Qin Guoli to take them to prepare to arrange for Feng Rong to be admitted to the hospital first. At the same time, he wanted to do all kinds of checkups. Her dialysis this time would be done at the city hospital together. It would probably take a few days before she could be discharged. The few of them were busy in the hospital for a while. They had to move the beds in the ward and rush to do a lot of checkups. It was only after dinner that they finally settled down in the ward. Qin Guang chatted with his parents in the hospital the whole time. He planned to go back to school after 9 o'clock and come over early the next morning. When it was about 8:30 p.m., Dr. Ma came. Everyone couldn't help but feel that it was a little strange. Since Dr. Ma was the one who was seeing patients during the day, he should have gone home to rest at this time. It should be another doctor on duty who came. Dr. Ma chatted with everyone along the way and asked questions along the way. After waiting for about 20 minutes, he stood in front of Qin Guang's family. Originally, Qin Guang planned to leave, but since Dr. Ma came, he stayed. He wanted to listen to what he and his mother asked. It was still the usual questions. Then Dr. Ma suddenly changed the topic and said something else. "Actually, it's like this. I will be going to Moorlands Medical College in the United States to further my studies in 2 days. So, all the patients under my name will be transferred to another doctor who returned from Moorlands Medical College, Dr. Tang. Previously, the other patients have already been notified one by one. They have also met Dr. Tang. Madame Feng just came today. I thought that I would have to leave tomorrow, so I specially came to inform Mr. Qin and the rest." What? Qin Guang's family was a little surprised. They also felt a little uneasy. Dr. Ma was so serious and responsible. Who knew if the person who took over his shift would be the same as him? Of course, everyone had known each other for almost a year. Seeing that he was going to leave, they were also reluctant. Chapter 150. Seeing everyone like this, Dr. Ma smiled. "All of you, don't worry. Moorlands Medical College is a sacred place in my eyes. I'm so happy to have the opportunity to further my studies there." Dr. Tang is the youngest doctor in Moorlands Medical College in the past 10 years. Before she returned to China, she already had a lot of clinical experience. She even diagnosed a lot of famous people on the other side of the Atlantic. One of them is probably a senior executive at Google. They specially spent $1 million to treat her. Of course, she successfully completed her mission and brought the patient back from the brink of death. When Qin Guang's family heard how Dr. Ma described Dr. Tang, they couldn't help but feel happy. However, they felt a little embarrassed as it was in front of Dr. Ma. Qin Guoli was still mature. He immediately waved his hand. "What do you mean by spending $1 million to treat a patient? This is written in those chicken soup for the soul stories. However, since it's the hospital's decision, we believe in the hospital and Dr. Ma's choice. Dr. Ma became serious. Mr. Chin, don't doubt me. I know my own standard very well. Although I'm a few years older, I might not even be comparable to a normal doctor in Moreland's medical college, let alone a genius like Dr. Tang. What I told you is all true. Dr. Tang is also very responsible. Before the official handover, she had already read all the patient's medical records. She came prepared. Although the three Chin family members were still reluctant to leave Dr. Ma, they were secretly looking forward to it. They really wanted to see what kind of person Dr. Tang was. At this moment, a large group of people came in. Dr. Ma raised his head and smiled. He pointed at the door and said, "Speak of the devil. Dr. Tang is here. She's the prettiest female doctor. I'll bring her to talk to you. Actually, she already knows a lot about your condition." Qin Guang followed Dr. Ma's finger and looked at the door. He was instantly stunned. The person in the white coat was walking in front. Although the clothes she was wearing were different from that day, her face was clearly that of the drunk woman. Ever since Qin Guang had hung up on her and blacklisted her, she had tried different numbers to call him. Whenever she heard her voice, she would pinch the number and ignore her. But he never expected to meet her again in this hospital, and she was about to become his mother's attending physician. He subconsciously thought of this woman's appearance when she was drunk into a pool of mud, and then looked at her excessively young face. Qin Guang's heart suddenly turned cold. His parents were still looking at the young female doctor expectantly. His father sighed. He's really a young genius. Dr. Tang is so young. Feng Rong, who was lying on the bed, also straightened her neck. She looks like she's in her 20s. Dr. Ma nodded and smiled at Tang Ying. Then he turned around and sighed. That's right. It's more difficult to get a doctorate from Moreland's Medical College than to become a professor in our national medical university. But she's only 26 years old. The younger generation will surpass us in time. Qin Guang felt that Dr. Ma was praising the drunk woman too much. He thought about it again. Wasn't Dr. Ma going to Moreland's Medical College? The drunk woman must have found a way for Dr. Ma to get into that so-called Moreland's Medical College. That was why he was sparing no effort to help this woman get promoted in the hospital. At the thought of this, Qin Guang's already bad impression of Tang Ying dropped by 30%. I've seen you at your worst. How can I believe that you're a so-called genius doctor? You're only 26 years old. How can I trust you with my mother's life? Not only did Qin Guang see Tang Ying, but she also saw Qin Guang. She was even more dumbfounded. She did not even notice Dr. Ma nodding at her. She was stunned at the door of the ward, and an inexplicable sense of fear welled up in her heart. She just watched helplessly as Qin Guang looked at her. His gaze changed from surprise to doubt and then, disgust? That's right. That gaze was clearly disgust. Of course, Tang Ying knew why the boy was like this. She was also embarrassed because of what happened that day. Every time she thought about it, she felt ashamed. Dr. Tang, what's wrong with you? A large group of interns and nurses followed behind her, but she blocked the door and could not enter. A young nurse could not help but ask quietly. Tang Ying suddenly came back to her senses. She no longer looked at Qin Guang. Instead, she sorted out her emotions and walked to the bed closest to the door. Today she was not a drunken woman. She was an attending physician. She was here to work and make ward rounds. Everything else should be put aside for now. However, since she met him here and he seemed to be a patient's family member, he could not continue to hide from her this time. At the same time, she could also settle her worries. At this time, Dr. Ma came over and greeted Tang Ying. He said, "Dr. Tang, come over here first. Miss Feng Rong is a patient who just came here today. I'll introduce you to her and then I'll go home." Ah. Tang Ying did not react. When she entered the door just now, she did not see Dr. Ma at all. However, she still hurriedly greeted Dr. Ma. Then she looked in the direction that Dr. Ma was pointing. It was the bed next to Qin Guang. According to Dr. Ma, the lady next to the bed was Feng Rong. Tang Ying had already memorized Feng Rong's medical records. Of course, she knew her condition. It was a very typical chronic kidney failure. Looking at them, they seemed to be a family of 3. He was Feng Rong's son. No wonder he drove a sports car all day to earn money even though he was a college student. It turned out that there was such a reason. I thought that he was a college student who wanted something new and ran around to have fun. I didn't think that he was just being filial. Then she remembered that he had wasted a few hours of earning money in order to wait for her to sober up. No wonder he was so angry after being misunderstood. Thinking of this, Tang Ying felt even more ashamed. She must find a chance to explain to him. As for Feng Rong's illness, she had to do her best regardless of whether it was true or not. With this thought in mind, Tang Ying finally calmed herself down. She walked over with a smile, greeted him and began to ask questions. During the whole process of Tang Ying's questioning, Qin Guang did not say a word. He hid the disgust and distrust in his heart deeply and only looked at the woman coldly. The examination results would only come out tomorrow. No matter how good Tang Ying was today, she could not get any substantial information from him. It was just a very simple and casual conversation between the new doctor and the patient. Dr. Ma hurriedly left halfway through the conversation. Before he left, he only said goodbye and said happily, "I'll leave the rest to you." Chapter 151. He watched as Tang Ying led a large group of people around the ward, talking to one patient after another, and then instructing the assistants or interns behind her to hand her the examination reports one after another. She then looked at the reports while chatting with the patients. Qin Guang did not say a word from the beginning to the end. A thought was running through his mind. No, I must replace her. I can't put my mother's life in the hands of an alcoholic woman. She's still so young. God knows if she exchanged her education with her beauty. God knows if the CEO of Google really wanted to hire her for $1 million. Maybe she was hired because of her beauty. I don't trust her from the bottom of my heart. Originally, Qin Guang planned to leave at 9 o'clock. In the end, even though his father had repeatedly urged him to leave, he still made him sit in the ward until 10 o'clock. Only then did Tang Ying finish talking to each patient one by one. In fact, Qin Guang's guess was right. Dr. Ma's admission to Moorlands Medical College was indeed due to Tang Ying's efforts. Back then she got herself drunk because she had just returned from abroad and was planning to make a name for herself in the country. However, she was ostracized by a group of senior doctors in Wujing City Hospital. She stayed in the hospital for a whole 2 months, but she was not assigned to see patients even once, nor was she assigned to the inpatient department. Instead, she was ordered around by a group of senior doctors all day long, just like those interns who had just graduated in the country. Yes, those interns are also doctors and I'm also a doctor. But how can my status be the same as theirs? How can they treat me like this? Any one of the team I lead in the United States will be treated as a VIP by you old people here. You'll call me an expert. Just because I'm yellow and I'm from the country, I'm the youngest genius doctor in Moorlands Medical College. But when I come back to the country, I have to be suppressed by your qualifications. I'm not convinced. I've had enough of this feeling of seniority. So that day, Tang Ying directly flipped the table during the meeting. She was in an extremely bad mood and for the first time she got herself drunk. She was lucky that she didn't fall into Qin Guang's hands. If someone else flipped the table in public like this, they might not be able to stay in the hospital anymore. Fortunately, she was Tang Ying. Then Tang Ying decided to fight for something and set her sights on the good old Dr. Ma in the hospital. Dr. Ma had been working in the hospital for more than 10 years. Perhaps it was because of his limited talent that he was not good at currying favor. He was still the most ordinary attending physician, and he was still far away from becoming an associate professor. This target was neither too high nor too low, which was just right. Therefore, Tang Ying personally went to look for her mentor in the United States and used her connections in the team to get Dr. Ma to join her. He was not trying to harm Dr. Ma. Anyone in the hospital who wanted to improve their academic level would not let go of the opportunity to further their studies in Moorlands. It was hard to say how much they could learn, but it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. After getting such a great benefit from Tang Ying, Dr. Ma also braced himself and forcefully transferred all the patients under his name to Tang Ying under quite a lot of pressure. That was why the current scene happened. Sure enough, when she left the ward and returned to the doctor's office, Qin Guang immediately followed her. He stood in front of her and looked at her knowingly. "Hello, Dr. Tang. I want to talk to you." As expected, when she left the ward and returned to the doctor's office, Qin Guang immediately followed her. He stood in front of her and looked at her knowingly. "Hello, Dr. Tang. I want to talk to you." Sure enough, when she left the ward and returned to the doctor's office, Qin Guang immediately followed her. He stood directly in front of her and looked at her with a tacit understanding. "Hello, Dr. Tang. I want to talk to you." Tang Ying stood up. Hearing his tone, she forced a smile and said, "Well, I also want to talk to you. It's not very convenient here. Let's talk outside." He also wanted to try to change his face, but when he thought of his mother's illness, he really couldn't be happy. He couldn't care less about what other people did, but he absolutely couldn't allow this woman to tie his mother's life to her chariot and help her rise to power. The two went straight to the flower bed downstairs. Before Tang Ying said anything, Qin Guang said first, "I know you're still thinking about what happened that day, but it's over. What I want to talk about is something else. Wait, whether you accept it or not, I still want to apologize to you." Tang Ying guessed that he would have this attitude, and she also guessed what he wanted to say next, so she directly interrupted him. "There's another thing. I'll apologize to you first, but I really hope that my mother can be replaced by another attending physician." Qin Guang said with a cold expression as he ignored Su Tao's apology. Tang Ying's body trembled slightly. Even though she had already guessed that he would make this request, when he really said it, Tang Ying still felt very uncomfortable, but more than that, she was angry. It's fine to be pushed aside by the senior doctors in the hospital, but now that I've finally made a name for myself, what right do you have to question my ability? Even if it's because of what happened that day, I'm naturally a head shorter than you, but my medical skills are absolutely not to be looked down upon by anyone. Anger gradually accumulated in her heart, and Tang Ying's breathing became heavy. "What? Are you angry? Let me tell you. I'm even angrier. I don't care how you became that Dr. Morlens, and I don't care how you convinced Dr. Ma to transfer my mother's patients to you. It's not important to me. I just want to change my mother's attending physician." Tang Ying was angry, but Qin Guang was even angrier than her. Tang Ying clenched her fists tightly. She wanted to punch Qin Guang in the face, but she still held back because she owed him. But she didn't want to compromise. "I don't agree. I know your mother's condition very well. In the entire Wujing city, there is no doctor more suitable than me. It seems that if I don't give you face, you really won't give up, right? That's my mother's life. How dare I put my mother's life in the hands of an alcoholic woman like you? God knows if you'll get drunk one day and randomly prescribe medicine for my mother. God knows if you'll leave a pair of scissors in my mother's stomach during the operation. I don't care about anything else. That day when you mistook me for a pervert, I can also understand. Any woman would have the same thoughts as you at that time. But for today's matter, I will not take a single step back. Chin, don't go too far. Even if I really feel guilty because of that." Tang Ying spoke loudly. She opened her hands and leaned her neck forward, venting her anger to her heart's content. "If you really feel guilty, then do me a big favor and change my mother to Professor Lu. Just take it as I'm begging you. Do a good deed and return this little favor to me, okay?" Qin Guang once again interrupted her. Chapter 152. Tang Ying was dumbfounded. She realized that there was no way she could convince this boy who was as violent as a lion. Because she couldn't refute Qin Guang's words. "I know I'm asking for too much. Professor Lu is a famous doctor. Our deputy mayor's illness was the same as my mother's, and he was the one who cured him. We wanted to see Professor Lu before, but he didn't accept us. Later we met Dr. Ma. Fortunately, he was also very responsible. But this time I really can't trust you." As he spoke, Qin Guang gnashed his teeth with tears welling up in his eyes. But he forced himself to hold on. "Even if you're angry, I understand. I'm only begging you to help me with this matter. You and Professor Lu are colleagues, right? If you help me put in a good word for me, this might work out. If I can get Professor Lu's help, my mother's condition will be better. It doesn't matter if Professor Lu's fee is higher. I have money. I can make money. A lot of money. I don't lack money." Qin Guang thought of the Patek Philippe watch that was temporarily in Jiang Ye's hands, and he felt a sense of relief. Tang Ying stared at him for a long time and her face gradually dimmed. She silently turned her head to the side. "Okay, I'll help you. This little boy, he didn't even study and now he's standing in front of me and saying he's rich. Fine, I admit defeat today." Qin Guang was overjoyed. He had been looking forward to this moment ever since he met this woman. Professor Lu was the chief expert in the nephrology department of Wujing City Hospital. His medical skills were well known, but ordinary patients couldn't come into contact with him for a long time. Asking Tang Ying for help was a desperate attempt. Of course, even if he couldn't get Professor Lu, Qin Guang would still find another doctor. But I won't completely quit your mother's treatment group. I will be Professor Lu's assistant. Tang Ying said again. By now, Qin Guang was already in ecstasy and he didn't care so much. Thank you so much. Shall we go talk to the chief about this? Don't worry, I, Tang Ying, have always been a man of my word. This kind of thing the patient's family members can't convince the director. I'll go myself. Seeing him instantly turn from rage to wild joy, Tang Ying couldn't help but feel a sense of powerlessness in his heart. Who was to blame for this? Was Qin Guang wrong? He wasn't wrong. After that kind of mishap happened between them, it was reasonable for him to completely lose confidence in this overly young returning professor. Was he wrong again? Of course, even though Tang Ying wasn't arrogant, she was sure that she wasn't any worse than Professor Lu. In fact, she was even better at modern treatment concepts. Now that things have come to this, it can only be fate making a fool out of me. Who told me to get drunk just once in my life and fall into his hands? I brought this upon myself. This time I'm going to make a fool of myself. If someone else asked Professor Lu to take on another patient, they would most likely be rejected. However, if it was Tang Ying, he would definitely agree. This was because Professor Lu was the most authoritative person among the senior doctors who had pushed him aside. However, Professor Lu helped his patient find Professor Lu, and the patient even wanted to replace Professor Lu, but Professor Lu agreed. This was probably what Professor Lu wanted. This meant that he, the arrogant professor who had just returned from abroad, had lowered his head to him. Tang Ying let out another sigh. What a sin in life. Qin Guang was in a great mood. Seeing that Tang Ying didn't look like she was going to regret her decision, he felt like this was a blessing in disguise. If it weren't for Dr. Ma and Tang Ying, there was no way he would be able to get into Professor Lu's patients. Even if you're such an amazing returning doctor, I still only trust Professor Lu. Dr. Tang, I was a little too emotional just now. How about I treat you to supper as an apology? Qin Guang slightly turned his head and secretly wiped the tears from his eyes. He then turned his head back and smiled. Tang Ying felt like she lost to him. You're a man, you change your attitude faster than flipping a book. She angrily stared at Qin Guang and said, Don't act like you're the one who took advantage of me. I'm on duty right now, I can't be bothered with you. I'm going back to my room, you can stay wherever you want. Anyways, I'll switch your mother's room with Professor Lu's special care unit tomorrow, okay? But I have to warn you, the cost of the special care unit isn't low. If you can't handle it, you'll have to switch back to my room. It's up to you. Tang Ying resisted the urge to step on this guy. She put her hands in the pocket of her white coat and stomped upstairs in her high heels. Qin Guang wasn't in a hurry to leave. Instead, he excitedly rushed upstairs. He ran faster than Tang Ying. He went back to his room and told his parents that he would be switching to Professor Lu's room tomorrow. Even though Qin Guoli and Feng Rong felt like there was something fishy going on, they were overjoyed. Professor Lu was an evergreen doctor, so they were overjoyed. The next day, when Qin Guang came back to the hospital, his mother had already been switched to a special care unit. Tang Ying and Professor Lu were in the room, asking about his mother's well-being. When Qin Guang looked at Tang Ying again, he felt like she was pleasing to the eye from every angle. What if she got drunk and vomited all over his car? What if this woman got a PhD because of her beauty? What if she forced Dr. Ma to take over his position? None of this was important. If she really got Professor Lu here, then everything would be fine. In the afternoon, the test reports came out one after another. Qin Guang ran up and down with a thick stack of test reports in his hand. He stood outside Professor Lu's office and suddenly became nervous. He came alone and didn't tell his father that he had all the reports. He pushed the door open and heard Professor Lu scolding Tang Ying. Xiao Tang, I know you young people are impulsive, but everything has to be done step by step. Although Dr. Ma has been making slow progress in the past few years, he is still one of the mainstays of our hospital. You suddenly took over all of his shifts. How is it? You're a little flustered, aren't you? Professor Lu is right. I was too impatient, Tang Ying said in a muffled voice. Young man, you're still not convinced. When I have dinner with your father, I'll ask him to reprimand you. Even though you're a rare genius, you still have to calm down. The hospital isn't like your school, and it's definitely not like your home. You can't do whatever you want. This time you took over all of Dr. Ma's patients. A lot of people are complaining and I'm the one who helped you out. Don't look at me lecturing you like everyone else as if I'm purposely making things difficult for you. I'm doing this for your own good. Got it, Professor Lu. If there's nothing else, I'll leave first. The patient's test reports are coming out soon. I have to wait. Tang Ying turned around and her face immediately fell. She rolled her eyes and wrinkled her nostrils. She was full of displeasure. When she turned around, Qin Guang saw her strange expression. Chapter 153. Tang Ying was pissed when she saw Qin Guang. It's all your fault. Otherwise, why would I come here to teach him a lesson? When she walked past him, she rolled her eyes at him. Qin Guang was reading the report in his hand. He was not in the mood to argue with her because there were too many plus signs in this thick pile of reports. Although there were still some reports that would take a few more days to come out, based on what they had so far, they could already see some signs. The situation is not good. Professor Lu's office was not as crowded as an ordinary doctor's office. There were only him and an assistant. After all, Professor Lu was usually only responsible for a few patients. Qin Guang looked at Professor Lu quietly. Professor Lu was carefully reading the test report line by line. Qin Guang tried to see the change in his expression but failed. This old man had been immersed in medicine for many years. He did not show his emotions in front of patients or their families. After Professor Lu finished reading, he looked up and asked, "Young man, which family member of the patient are you?" Qin Guang quickly answered, "I'm Feng Rong's son. My name is Qin Guang." "Oh, hello, Qin Guang. Here's the thing. I've read these reports, but there are still a few that haven't come out yet. I'll read them later. Let's do the analysis first," Professor Lu said calmly. Qin Guang could not help but ask, "Professor Lu, has my mother's condition worsened?" Professor Lu paused for a second and seemed to hesitate. He looked at Qin Guang's worried eyes and said, "Young man, I'll give you a heads up. But don't let the patient know. If possible, arrange a kidney transplant as soon as possible." Qin Guang felt his body go soft. How could this be? Puss Corporation's special medicine has never stopped. So many people say that the medicine is very effective. Why can't it work on my mother? Professor Lu's face was still calm. He smiled and patted Qin Guang's arm as he said, "Everyone's physique is different. Even the best medicine doesn't have a fixed effect. Young man, don't get too excited. Although the situation isn't ideal, it's not that bad either. Never hurts to prepare early." Professor Lu, even though that's the case, the transplant matching information has already been submitted. If I could, I would have done it a long time ago. It's my own transplant match that failed. Otherwise, I would have donated my kidney. Although Professor Lu said it calmly, Qin Guang was not at ease. Professor Lu rubbed his forehead and patted Qin Guang's shoulder. He said, "If I knew you were this impatient, I wouldn't have told you this. I'm asking you to prepare early because I hope that once a suitable kidney source is found, your family will be able to afford the corresponding expenses immediately. Don't let any accidents happen because of the cost. Don't let you worry for nothing, understand?" Qin Guang walked out of Professor Lu's office in a daze. He thought about it carefully and realized that he didn't say anything. He was just scaring himself. As for the financial problem that Professor Lu mentioned, Qin Guang had the Patek Philippe in his heart, so he wasn't too worried. After walking a few steps, he happened to see Tang Ying walking out of his mother's ward. She was holding the lab report in her hand. Qin Guang was a little tempted. He wanted to go find Tang Ying, but he felt awkward. After Tang Ying went back to her office, he made up his mind. No matter how good her medical skills were, no matter how much he offended her, he had to put everything aside in front of his mother's condition. Qin Guang mustered up his courage and stood in front of Tang Ying. Tang Ying looked at this young man's awkward expression and remembered how domineering he was last night. She felt proud of herself. No matter how talented she was still young. "What, you don't trust my medical skills? Why did you put the report in front of me again?" Seeing that there was no one else in the office, Tang Ying whispered to Qin Guang in a voice that only Qin Guang could hear. Qin Guang's hand shrank back and he almost wanted to take the report and leave. However, Tang Ying snatched it from him and said, all right. Let's forget about the past. You saw what happened today. I embarrassed myself in front of Mr. Lu for helping you. But I'm your mother's deputy chief physician, this is my job. Tang Ying looked at the report as she spoke. As she looked at it, her face became a little gloomy. Under normal circumstances, she could barely hide her emotions in front of the patient's family. However, too many things had happened between her and Chen Guang. They couldn't be considered friends, but they were too close to be enemies. Their relationship was very complicated. Is there a problem? Chen Guang's heart tightened again. Tang Ying didn't answer him. Instead, she looked at the report again before she finally said, "After the dialysis, don't leave the hospital yet. I hope we can find a suitable kidney as soon as possible." Chen Guang's face turned pale in an instant. How could it be? Tang Ying looked around before she said again, "Don't be too nervous. The situation isn't at its worst yet. It's only because of you that I'm telling you the truth so early. Anyway, just wait patiently. Don't let it slip in front of the patient." Chen Guang couldn't remember how he got back to his mother's ward, nor did he know what he talked about with his parents with a smile on his face. His memory of the previous hour seemed to have gone blank. When his father asked him about the report, he only said that it wasn't out yet. At that moment, he was sitting alone on the rooftop of the hospital building. He looked up at the sky and suddenly took out the heavenly holy grail from his bag. He shook it with all his might and shouted, "Liuli, Liuli, come out right now." In fact, Qin Guang should have thought of this a long time ago. Unfortunately, the time he had to communicate with Liuli was too short. After entering the world in the cup, everything seemed so rushed. This woman especially liked to talk with her fists, so it was seriously difficult to communicate. Now that things had become serious, Qin Guang couldn't hold back anymore. At that moment, Liuli was watching Hikari happily. How could she be in the mood to pay attention to Qin Guang? She was about to pretend that she was offline when she suddenly sensed that Qin Guang's mind was in a very abnormal state. She was afraid that something would really happen if he held back, so she quickly appeared in his mind. As soon as Liuli, who was shrouded in white mist, appeared, Qin Guang shouted in his mind, "Liuli, help me. Save my mom." Qin Guang had never used this tone to beg anyone. She had never acted like this since she got along with Liuli. She was stunned and realized one thing. It seemed that she cared too little about this savior, so much so that she didn't notice such an important thing around him. Chapter 154. I already know about your mother's situation. You're the God Emperor, you must have a way, right? I'm sorry. I can't do it, at least I can't do anything now. Qin Guang was stunned. Why? Aren't you some incredible God Emperor from the endless God realm? You can't even cure someone's illness? Then what kind of God Emperor are you? What use do I have for you and this heavenly sage grail? Liuli sighed faintly. If I wasn't trapped in the heavenly sage grail, let alone cure someone, I could even create an immortal body for your family. But I really can't do it now. The heavenly sage grail's level is too low, my divine power is too weak. Whether it's hypnotizing you or controlling Wu Tong's emotions, I've already consumed a lot of my divine power. The effects can't last long. Asking me to cure your mother sounds simple, but it's equivalent to me creating a new body. It's not something the heavenly sage grail can support. Then you mean that as long as the heavenly sage grail is upgraded, I can cure someone? Then quickly give me the world in the cup. How many levels do I have to upgrade to? Say it. No matter how dangerous it is, I'll do it. Qin Guang gritted his teeth, clenched his fists, and roared at the heavenly sage grail while shouting in his heart. No way, it's impossible. Creating a new body is equivalent to creating a living being. It requires at least the 5th level of the heavenly sage grail, the heavenly solar grail, to barely support it. It's much more difficult than your modern medical methods. Besides, to upgrade the heavenly sage grail, you have to complete the test step by step. How can this be? Aren't you a god? Aren't the so-called gods able to destroy the world with a breath? Qin Guang, you should know, right? Creation is much more difficult than destruction. Didn't I already say my divine power is at this level? I really can't help you. Don't say that nonsense. Let's upgrade. Quickly upgrade. Are you stupid? Didn't I just say the test of the 3,000 worlds can only be done step by step? Every time I prepare the world in the cup for you, you have to wait for the heavenly sage grail to recover its energy. It takes time. You can't rush this. I can't do anything. Pop. Qin Guang threw the heavenly holy grail onto the ground. Emperor of the Azure knew that he was angry at this time. She rolled her eyes and didn't want to argue with him but changed the topic. But I have another idea about what you're talking about. I wonder if you're interested in listening? It's much easier than treating someone with my own hands, but the effect is about the same. Holy shit. There was a way. Why didn't you say so earlier? Qin Guang pounced on the Holy Grail like a hungry tiger. He picked up the Holy Grail and kissed it, caressed it, and wiped it like it was a treasure. My little sweetheart, forgive me for my slip just now. Tell me if you have any ideas. Hurry up and say it. Qin Guang tried to please her while pretending to slap himself. Save it. I saw through your character the first time I laid eyes on you. You're an ingrate who won't release the eagle until you see the rabbit. Let me tell you, the 3,000 worlds in the heavenly Holy Grail aren't all testing worlds. There are some special existences. It's just that you didn't need it before, so I didn't say it. I originally planned to let you go through each stage step by step, but now that you've been forced into this situation, I have no choice but to take out this trump card in advance. Hurry up and say it. Don't keep me in suspense. There's a realm in the 3,000 worlds that hides the Bell of Fate. It's called the Realm of Fate. This Realm of Fate is not within the 9 heavens. It's extraordinary and powerful. If you can reach the peak of this realm and ring the Bell of Fate, you can control fate. Control fate. These 4 words kept echoing in Qin Guang's mind. Fate was so mysterious. It was hidden in the void, but it controlled the billions of lives in the world. Even if it was an ant, from the moment it was born to the moment it died on the road, it was all affected by this invisible fate. Today Qin Guang finally understood the terror of the heavenly Holy Grail. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that it was a divine weapon. Send me to the realm of fate. I want to ring the bell of fate and reverse my mother's destiny. Dream on. With your current level, if you dare to force your way into the realm of life, I can guarantee that before your feet even touch the ground, you'll be dead without even a speck of dust left. Qin Guang was furious. Then what's the use of telling me about the realm of fate? Can we have a pleasant conversation? Of course it's useful. You won't be able to barge into the realm of fate, but I can draw out a tiny strand of the power of fate from within. It's impossible to directly reverse a terminally ill person's destiny. If you want to reverse fate, you have to stand in front of the bell of fate and ring it with your own hands. But even this tiny strand of the power of fate can cause 2 people who were originally destined to be unrelated to each other to cross paths. Because there's an inevitability in the fate of these 2 people. The power of fate can create coincidences in the destinies of these 2 people. Qin Guang was shocked. You mean? That's right. I'll draw the power of fate and attach it to your mother. This mysterious power will cause her to cross paths with another terminally ill patient with a brain tumor. Then the kidney transplant index will be almost perfect. It is. These 2 people really exist in this world. My power of fate is nothing more than making the terminally ill patient with a brain tumor want to donate her organs. In her life she can choose to donate or not. It's all up to her. Won't this bring your mother back from the dead? Liuli's words were like 10,000 thunders, ringing in Qin Guang's mind. He was like a drowning man struggling for his life when he suddenly grabbed a swimming ring. Qin Guang was ecstatic. Let's do it. Let's do it. Hee, do you really think it's that simple? Let's not talk about the divine power I'll use to draw the power of fate. Do you really think that there's no price for manipulating other people's fates? No matter what the price is, I can accept it. The ignorant are truly fearless. Cut the crap. I'll do it even if the sky falls. Otherwise, I'll bang my head against the wall and let you find another savior. Since you've made up your mind, I won't persuade you anymore. But I still have to let you know in advance that there will be karma when you touch the bell of fate. Your next world in the cup will no longer be a simple test world. It will be a world of punishment derived from the world of fate. It'll be a narrow escape. I'll do it even if it's a narrow escape. Qin Guang was sure that he had Liuli in his heart. What am I afraid of? She's just trying to scare me. Since she's willing to say it, no matter how scary it is, I definitely won't die. The savior can only be me. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.